Chapter 432. Feeling the pain. The snake lost all of its power and started to dive into the lake. Meanwhile, the boat had also lost its balance and started to fall from the sky. Right then, another snake broke out of the water and waved its tail. Seeing that the huge boat was about to be cut in half, Yi-Chun reacted quickly and used his left hand to slap the boat away. Boom! Yi-Chun and the boat separated, and the snake's tail went through the gap between them, bringing up huge waves on the surface of the lake. Pap! 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 Taking a deep breath, Yi-Chun lightly stepped on the surface of the lake. He twisted his feet, and a swirling power supported him as he started to run at a fast speed. The destruction sword in his hand sliced across the surface of the water. The swirling power under his feet increased drastically as Yi-Chun jumped into the air and landed a solid sword attack on the snake's neck. Shoo! 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 In the next second, blood splashed out like a heavy rain. The snake had tried to go for wool and come home shorn. Its huge head that was like a carriage had been sliced off, and the cut was smooth and clean. Although Yi-Chun looked so relaxed, it did not mean that everyone else was. Besides the 12 Sea of Souls realm warriors, the rest of them were in a bad shape. Their boats had either been flipped over by the snake or dragged into the water. No one knew if they were still alive or dead. All of a sudden, a huge area of the lake turned dark red, filled with the smell of blood. Hee, take care of yourselves. In here, you guys can die very easily, just like rabbits that could be killed at any second. It was a Sea of Souls realm warrior who had been in the underground world for a couple of days. Without their Zhen Yuan, everyone's battling power had decreased drastically. However, up until now, not a single Sea of Souls realm warrior had died, which made him think that there was nothing in the underground world that could threaten him. While he was feeling relaxed, he could not help but tease those astral-reaching realm warriors who were risking their lives. Hearing him, some of them made a face. What's so special about it? This underground world is only the tip of the iceberg for us. Who knows how big it is and how dangerous it is? However, what he said is not wrong. Up there, we can't say that we can get whatever we want, but we are not an existence that can be killed at will. I didn't expect that in the underground world, with our Zhen Yuan restricted, we are so vulnerable. Even a mosquito or a python can kill us. If I had known this would happen, I wouldn't have joined in the fun. What's the point of saying all this? The most important thing is how to leave. Voila! Amidst the chaotic battle, a 300 meters long python suddenly emerged from the bottom of the lake. Rather than calling a python, it was more like a giant loach. It had dorsal fins from its head to its tail, and its tail was like a dragon's tail. The dragon whiskers by its cheeks were crystal white, and they were 50 to 60 meters long. When it opened its mouth, its dense teeth were completely different from a python's. When it flicked its red tongue, 3 to 4 people were sucked in, including the almighty spiritualist. No, he reacted and slapped his opponent's head. However, this ferocious python, which had lived for countless years, had extremely strong defenses. The palm strike that contained martial will merely caused its head to tilt slightly, and it did not suffer any damage. Instead, it became increasingly infuriated and swallowed its prey. Run! Everyone snapped out of their shock and rowed with all their might towards the other end of the lake. After swallowing 3 to 4 people, that ferocious python was still not satisfied. It chased after them with the other pythons, flipping over a boat and eating the astral-reaching realm warriors on it. Master Jade River could not stand it anymore. So he stood at the back of the boat and performed another profound sense martial art that he had created himself. Great Jade Cut. Under the guidance of Feng Xingjian's martial will, several tens of streams of water flew out from the lake. These streams of water condensed into thin rope-like blades that interweaved with each other like a huge net, encompassing toward the numerous pythons and that huge ferocious python. Shoo! 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 The master-level martial will was extremely powerful, and with the support of the water stream blades, its power was released to the extreme. Besides the fierce python that looked like a loach, the rest of the pythons that were covered were all torn apart. None of them could fight against it at all. However, the fierce python was not having it easy either, as a huge net of cuts appeared on its body. Blood kept pouring out of it, dyeing a huge part of the lake red. Demon cut. The demon master had also attacked. He twisted his arm, and a curved blade shot out. The edge of the blade cracked on its own, turning into a tooth-like shape. It sliced through the wound of that fierce python. Swoosh! Blood gushed out like a waterfall in a jagged pattern. The upper half of the fierce python slid down diagonally, dying a violent death in an instant. Master-level warriors are indeed powerful. They are still so powerful even without Jinyuan. Everyone who had noticed this scene was shocked. They now had a new understanding of master-level warriors. The lake was not that huge, but without Jinyuan, they had not reached the end of it even after a week. The lake was still so far away. On a piece of land, a lake was connected to a long river in the middle of the land. The long river divided many unique and wild buildings into two. At the riverside, a young man with golden fur was squatting there, his palm brushing the python's head. There are outsiders coming this way. There are 70 of them, and you have killed 20 of them. 2 of them are very powerful, having killed the Holy Snake Master. The teenager squinted his eyes and patted the python's head, letting it dive back into the river. He then stood up and said coldly, "With me, the Goldwind Saint's son, here not a single outsider will be able to leave this place alive. They will all die." As the Saint's son of the Billowing Saint tribe, his power could be ranked in the top 10. Serenity, who had been kidnapped a year ago, was his sworn sister. She was supposed to be married to a more powerful Saint's son of the Saint tribe. But who would have thought that something like this would happen? If I am not mistaken, those 2 powerful outsiders should be master-level C of Soul's Realm warriors. Then, I will bring 2 priest elders over. Turning around, he walked toward the tallest building. Another 3 days had passed, and everyone finally saw the land. There were mountains and rivers on the land, which was no different from the outside world. The only difference was that the sky was always dark, and what was shining down from the gray clouds was not sunlight. Instead, it was a kind of light that was full of texture. Dong! The boat reached the shore, and the remaining 50 people jumped down one after another. What is this place? Why does it look a bit strange? Everything in the underground world is not right. What do you expect? After crossing the beach, a forest appeared in front of everyone's eyes. The forest seemed to have gone through countless battles, as the ground was full of holes. Trees had fallen one after another, and some places were even more horrifying than the quicksand. Everyone saw a small snake sink into the ground and never come out again. Carefully entering the forest, everyone did not even have the time to let out a breath before they heard 3 to 4 explosive sounds. 5 astral-reaching realm warriors were blown dozens of meters away, like broken sacks, bleeding from every orifice. They died in an extremely sullen way. "It's a trap." Yi Chun frowned. Morong Qin Cheng said, "Judging from a vibration just now, it should be a mental power explosion trap. I did not expect the people in this world to have already developed mental power to this level. We have just escaped from the tiger's mouth, and now we have run into a pack of wolves. We can only fight. Being treated as prey by the underground humans would not feel good at all. If they wanted to survive, they would have to fight. Everything else was just empty and unrealistic." On a high slope in front of them, a group of people appeared. The leader was a majestic young man with wide shoulders and a small head. His body was covered in luxurious golden fur, and there was a strange tattoo on his exposed chest, giving off a powerful aura. On both sides of him stood 2 white-haired old men. They also had tattoos on their faces, and their eyes were very sharp. "Outsiders, you will die." The majestic young man spoke in a broken human language, which sounded a bit awkward. Old Man Sky Eagle laughed. "He can actually speak our language. Although he only knows a few words, there must have been someone who came down before us." Master Jade River nodded. "Since the underground world exists, it must have communicated with the outside world. It is not strange at all." The majestic young man was indeed Goldwind Saint's son. His gaze swept through the crowd, pausing on demon ancestor and master Jade River for a while. Then, it landed on Yi Chun. He seemed to feel that Yi Chun was not simple. He sneered, and disdain flashed in his eyes. Finally, his gaze shifted to Murong Qingchen. Breathing slightly hurried, Goldwind Saint Sun said to the priest elder beside him, "I want this woman. Don't kill her." Saint Sun's eyesight is not bad. This outsider woman has a good temperament, perhaps even above the saintess. The priest elder on the left grinned. The priest elder on the right said, "Why don't we bring her back to be our saintess? Today, I want her. As for the others, I will kill them all." Goldwind Saint Sun's eyes flickered with intense desire and killing intent. He raised his hand high and waved it down. Although the crowd did not know what he was talking about, they could tell from his eyes and actions that things would not end well. Damn, they all treat us as prey. Do they really think we are easy to bully? Slaughter them all. Kill. There was no need for any provocation. Including Yi Chun, everyone's heart was filled with killing intent, and their eyes gradually turned scarlet red. Swish, 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 swish. The first to attack were Goldwind Saint Sun's group. Their weapons were spears that could be thrown. Under the support of their thoughts, the spears pierced through the air at a speed that surpassed the speed of sound, tearing apart the air and covering everyone. Go back. Anger flickered on demon ancestor's face. With a wave of his palm, his master grade martial will gushed out. Pung! Suddenly, the priest elder on the left side of Goldwind Saint Sun made his move. A mental hammer smashed through demon ancestor's martial will, making it impossible for him to block the spear. The next moment, 3 or 4 astral-reaching experts couldn't dodge in time and were sent flying by the spears. Ding, 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 ding. The bright sword light danced in the air, bouncing off at least 1/4 of the spears. Behind the sword light was Yi Chun, who was dressed in blue. Right then, he did not plan to hold back much of his power. If he continued to be killed like this, everyone would be killed, which was why this scene had happened. Chapter 433. Oh, interesting. He was actually concealing a part of his strength. Goldwind Saint Sun distinguished his strength based on what he had seen and heard. For example, when demon ancestor and master Jade River joined hands to kill Elder Sacred Snake, this scene was seen by the messenger Sacred Snake, who informed him. As for Yi Chun, he was merely equivalent to an ordinary Sea of Soul Realm expert and wasn't particularly outstanding. Now that he had erupted, his strength had doubled. It was impossible for him not to attract attention. Glancing left and right, Goldwind Saint Sun said, "I'll leave the 2 who killed Elder Sacred Snake to you. There should be no problem, right? Saint Sun, rest assured, I, Sang Qing, will make sure they never return." The priest elder on the left revealed a sneer. Goldwind Saint Sun was the saint son of the Billowing Saint tribe. His talent and perception were impeccable, and his potential was huge. Therefore, although he wasn't weaker than Goldwind Saint Sun in terms of strength, his status was much lower. In the tribe, the saint son and saint daughter were only below the patriarch, and their status was extremely high. Bayan will certainly kill them. The priest elder on the right closely stared at Master Jade River. Goldwind Saint Sun nodded. "Very well, make your move." Hearing these words, the priest elder named Sang Qing pounced toward demon ancestor. With a thought, an incorporeal consciousness armor condensed on his body. In his left hand was a shield flickering with a silver light, while in his right was a 3-pointed double-edged spear. Although subterranean humans didn't cultivate Zhen Yuan because they cultivated body tempering techniques, their physiques were formidable. Their movements were as fast as thunder, as if an ancient mammoth was charging at the enemy at full speed. Courting death, demon ancestor's right hand tightened, and a 4-foot-long curved blade appeared in his hand. The curved blade had a thick back and a thin edge. With a wave of demon ancestor's right hand, a cold light flickered, and the air was immediately sliced open. Ding! The 2 exchanged blows for the first time, and they were evenly matched. Your opponent is me. Seeing that Sang Qing and the demon ancestor had started fighting, Bayan was unwilling to fall behind. His hands danced like a net, creating many afterimages. In the next moment, the sky-covering intent net enveloped the Jade River Spirit Master, layer after layer. The Jade River Master narrowed his eyes and activated the Great Jade Spiral, which was propelled by his martial will. He protected himself in the center and allowed the net of will to envelop him. As for the others, they had been fighting for a long time. However, in comparison, the underground humans still had the absolute advantage. In terms of long-range attacks, the underground humans' mental power was the deciding factor. The long spears they threw out could easily pierce through the bodies of astral, reaching realm warriors. In close-range battles, the underground humans' physical strength was not something astral-reaching realm warriors could compete with. They were like beasts in human form, extremely powerful. However, the people from the outside world were not completely useless. In terms of battling techniques, the underground humans could not even catch up to them. The two were not even on the same level. Murong Qingqing's opponents were 3 underground humans. These 3 people were different from the other underground humans. They weren't in a hurry to take Murong Qingqing's life. It seemed that they had some plans. Ever since Murong Qingqing condensed the embryonic form of her martial soul, she could already use her martial will to enhance all aspects of her qualities. However, when faced with the intangible will, she couldn't end the battle quickly. To be able to die by my hands is your honor. Goldwind Saint Sun walked toward Yi Chun step by step, his expression extremely relaxed. As far as he was concerned, personally dealing with Yi Chun was like using a sledgehammer to crack a nut. However, since he had nothing better to do, why not have some fun? Yi Chun couldn't understand his opponent's words, but it didn't mean he couldn't see his opponent's contempt. He stood in place without moving, his back straight like a sword about to be unsheathed. The sharp aura of a sword artist pervaded the surroundings. Goldwind Saint Sun sneered and suddenly raised his hand. Pucci, an incorporeal blade brushed past Yi Chen's neck, leaving behind a 100-meter-long scar on the ground. As for why it didn't hit, it wasn't because Goldwind Saint Sun was lenient, but because Yi Chun tilted his head at the crucial moment, narrowly avoiding the attack. Not bad. Goldwind Saint Sun curled his lips. You take a sword attack from me as well. Yi Chun didn't care if his opponent could understand him or not. The destruction sword was unsheathed instantly, and he slashed upwards, causing a bright sword light. Boom! Goldwind Saint Sun had underestimated Yi Chun in the end. He didn't expect Yi Chun's sword attack to be so fast and unexpected. Without enough time to dodge, he could only arrange an indestructible barrier in front of him, which was then quickly thickened and widened. The invisible sword light condensed from the destruction sword intent clashed with the wool barrier, causing the ground to crack and crack. The surrounding trees cracked into pieces, turning into ashes. Goldwind Saint Sun himself was caught off guard and had to back out dozens of steps before he could neutralize the impact of the sword intent. Swinging his palm, he glanced at his left shoulder, where a piece of golden fur had been shaved off. Bits of hair were fluttering in the air, and his face looked terrible. Very well, you finally piqued my interest. I wonder how you're going to block this next attack. Goldwind Saint Sun's expression turned serious. Yi Chun wasn't as easy to take care of as he had imagined. Of course, he still hadn't considered Yi Chun as a formidable opponent. He was just a bit more serious. Metal Storm. Goldwind Saint Sun opened his mouth and shouted. The air in front of him was immediately expelled, and countless wool blades shot out like a torrential storm without any pattern. Clang, 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 clang. Yi Chun shattered the wool blades one after another. Because of his fast sword speed, it seemed like he had only attacked 3 or 4 times. In fact, he had attacked at least 17 times, and each sword attack would cut apart a straight line of wool blades. Bastard, die for me. The ground under his feet collapsed. Goldwind Saint Sun took a step forward, and as he did so, more wool blades were formed. With a single point as the center, they started to spin crazily, creating a horizontal tornado made of wool blades. The tornado had a cone-shaped tip, attacking towards Yi Chun at a high speed. Sky Thundercut. Holding the destruction sword with both hands, Yi Chun used his destruction sword intent to push out his best and sharpest attack, the Sky Thundercut. With a single sword attack, it seemed like the world was being torn apart. The tornado made of wool blades was split into two, causing Goldwind Saint Sun's attack to fail on the verge of success. Impossible. How can his sword intent be so powerful? Goldwind Saint Sun's expression finally changed. In the billowing Saint clan, he had condensed his martial spirit a year ago. Once his martial spirit was formed, his will was equivalent to a sea of soul realm expert in the outside world. Moreover, after the will was transformed into will, its offensive power would increase by several folds. It was definitely not inferior to a master-level martial will. If Yi Chun could block his full power attack, wouldn't it mean that his sword intent was at the master level? To have a master-level sword intent in his 20s was simply unimaginable. At least in the history of the underground world, such a person had rarely appeared. Chapter 434. Due to the huge commotion caused by their battle, Demon Ancestor and Master Jade River both noticed this scene. Their expressions were astonished at first, then turned profound. No one knew what they were thinking. Taoist Ironwood and Old Man Sky Eagle were also astonished. Although they knew that Yi Chun wasn't an ordinary astral reaching expert and seemed to have condensed a sword soul, they didn't expect his sword intent to reach such a level. Could it be that his talent and willpower was a peerless genius that appeared once in 10,000 years? Like the ancient Sword King, his sword Tao aptitude was blessed by the heavens, and he was favored by the heavens? Are you serious? We actually have a true dragon-grade genius among us. If this news were to spread, it would raise a huge commotion. True dragon-grade genius? Isn't this overestimating him a bit too much? Absolutely not. As an astral-reaching expert, he has a master-grade sword intent. If you say he isn't a true dragon-grade genius, I wouldn't believe it even if you beat me to death. Yeah, he's indeed worthy of being called a true dragon-grade genius. In the entire southern sector, there are no more than 5 people who could be called true dragon-grade geniuses. Among them, 2 barely qualify and can only be considered as true dragon-grade geniuses. Despite the intense battle, the sea of Soul Realm experts were still chatting. The shock brought by Yi Chun was too great. It should be known that in a certain sector, peak geniuses were the peak geniuses, and their number was around 5. But in a sector, peak geniuses weren't enough. After all, a sector had around 5 peak geniuses, and in 8 or 9 sectors, there would be 40 or 50 of them. It was simply too much and couldn't reflect their rarity. Therefore, peak geniuses were also divided into different levels. The first level was for ordinary peak geniuses. Needless to say, only geniuses with extremely high aptitude in all aspects could enter this list. Strength was not the only criterion. The second level was for true dragon-grade geniuses. The so-called true dragon had to have the potential to attack life and death realm. As for how to judge them, it was actually quite simple. Apart from reaching the peak level in all aspects, they also had to have a world-shaking ability. For example, Yi Chun had a master-grade sword intent at Astral Reaching Realm, which was enough to shock the world. Even if you have a master-grade sword intent, I'll still crush you. Goldwind Saint Sun roared and spread his arms, seeming as if he was hugging an incorporeal ball. Then, he fiercely attacked Yi Chun. Kacha! The ground was plowed with a curved semicircle mark. This mark was formed so quickly that it seemed to have been formed abruptly, without any warning. At that moment, Yi Chun and the people around Yi Chun all felt as if time had stagnated, as if space had been frozen. The mental attack from Goldwind Saint Sun had slowed down their thinking. High-density thoughts. Yi Chun's heart tightened. The strength of Goldwind Saint Sun was truly not to be underestimated. If this thought attack landed, even if he didn't die, he would be crippled. But that doesn't mean it has no weaknesses. His willpower was condensed into a ball, which had the most destructive power. But it was also because it was a ball that it could not be perfectly executed. Pushing his soul power to its limit, Yi Chun threw out a sword attack at the weakest point of the ball-shaped willpower, which was the most unstable and imperfect place. Pop! The sphere of consciousness dissipated and blasted a large pit. Goldwind Saint Sun's extraordinary strike did not pose much of a threat to Yi Chun. It was like a thunder roaring, but a raindrop falling. Seeing that the first strike was effective, Yi Chun took a step forward and slashed out a second time before Goldwind Saint Sun could. Puff! Spurting out a mouthful of blood, Goldwind Saint Sun flew back with a pale face. Saint Sun, Sang-Ching, and Bayan were shocked. They were very clear about Goldwind Saint Sun's strength. He was definitely not weaker than them, and could be ranked in the top 10 of the tribe. Otherwise, he wouldn't have become the #1 expert of the young generation of the Billowing Saint tribe. But now, he had been defeated by a blue-robed sword artist who was even younger than the Saint Sun. The two wanted to help Goldwind Saint Sun, but Demon Ancestor and Master Jade River were not easy to deal with. Their attacking power might be weaker than Yi Chun's, but their speed and defense were horrifying. The two could barely maintain the situation, so how could they escape? Shoot! The number of people brought by Goldwind Saint Sun surpassed Yi Chun's group in the end. Seeing that Goldwind Saint Sun was in danger, some of them took out short spears from their backs and threw them at Yi Chun. Yi Chun did not disregard the short spears. His defense could be said to be his weak point. It was worse than any Sea of Soul Realm expert who had condensed a martial soul. With the amplification of his consciousness, even if these short spears could not kill him, they could still heavily injure him. It was not worth the risk. The destruction sword brandished several beams of light, chopping down all the incoming short spears. Yi Chun slightly bent his knees and suddenly shot up. In the next moment, a huge crack appeared where he was just a moment ago. The soil around the crack turned into dust, and the attacker was none other than Goldwind Saint Sun, who had been beaten to the point of vomiting blood by Yi Chun. With the support of his subordinates, Goldwind Saint Sun was able to withstand Yi Chun's attacks. He seized the opportunity and took advantage of the time when Yi Chun was exhausted from dealing with the short spears to quickly condense his consciousness attack, wanting to catch him unprepared. He truly didn't expect Yi Chun to react so quickly, easily dodging his killing blow. Puff, 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 puff. Dodging Goldwind Saint Sun's sneak attack, Yi Chun did not immediately charge forward and fight a life-and-death battle. Instead, he followed the inertia and floated near the group of subterranean humans that had besieged him. With a shake of his right hand, a sword light shone brilliantly and blood splattered. Psyche Cage. Seeing Yi Chun killing his subordinates as if he was chopping vegetables, Goldwind Saint Sun clenched his teeth and created a psyche barrier around Yi Chun, wanting to trap him inside. Then, he would gather his subordinates and launch several volleys. However, just as the psyche cage was formed, Yi Chun walked out with sword steps. That thin psyche barrier simply couldn't bear his casual sword strike. Too powerful. Is he still an astral-reaching expert? Yi Chun had killed a lot of subterranean humans, and the more he killed, the more he saved a few astral-reaching experts. These astral-reaching experts, seeing Yi Chun slaughter the subterranean humans so easily and tear apart Goldwind Saint Sun's ace attack, couldn't help but be stupefied. In their eyes, even Demon Ancestor and Master Jade River weren't this fierce. Even Master Grade Sword Intent couldn't explain Yi Chun's power. Breaking away from the psyche cage, Yi Chun's figure flickered and suddenly appeared in Murong Qingqing's direction. One of the people surrounding Murong Qingqing glanced at him from the corner of his eyes and was greatly alarmed. However, before he could say a second word, his throat was slashed, and he died without any hesitation. The other two were somewhat alarmed and wanted to move closer to Goldwind Saint Sun. However, Murong Qingqing's eyes and hand were sharp. She shot out like a butterfly and slammed her palm on the chest of the person on the left. With a cautious sound, the chest of the person struck caved in. Blood and minced meat spurted out of his mouth. He immediately suffered a life-threatening injury and lost all his battle strength. The other person was overtaken by Yi Chun, who had a strange footwork, and his neck was pierced. Yichen was just about to deal with Goldwind Saint Sun when his soul power sensed a large group of people advancing at high speed. The leader's aura was incomparably powerful. Merely his gaze gave off a soul-tearing, oppressive feeling. A peerless expert is coming. Faintly changing their expressions, Yi Chun and Murong Qingcheng sucked in deep breaths and raised their speed to the limit. In a few blinks of an eye, they were already 1 li away. Goldwind Saint Sun thought of something and roared, "Don't let a single one of them escape." Yes. The group of underground humans dispersed, sealing in Demon Ancestor and arrest. In Demon Ancestor and Master Jade River exchanged a glance and simultaneously abandoned their opponents, fleeing the battlefield. They were very clear that the newcomer was even more powerful than the two of them combined. In terms of will, it was at least equivalent to a Taoist great expert. And once the will transformed into intent, it would be more than 3 or 4 times stronger, enough to sweep through everyone present. Pung pung pung. How could the underground humans encircling them be the opponents of Demon Ancestor and Master Jade River? With a single clash, a gap was torn open in the encirclement. Old Man Sky Eagle, Taoist Black Snake, and the other Sea of Soul Realm experts also saw that something was amiss. They closely followed behind Demon Ancestor and Master Jade River, frantically flying away. Rock Spirit Warrior and Yuan Gold Spirit Warrior's luck wasn't too good. Just as they were about to move, they were intercepted by Goldwind Saint Sun. The result was self-evident, and they died on the spot. Just like this, the originally anxious battle instantly collapsed as the reinforcements of the billowing saint race approached. Not a single person wanted to fight to the death, wishing that their parents could give them a way out so that their speed could surpass the others. Kill! Kill! In less than 5 breaths' time, the number of casualties surpassed the previous battle. Less than 20 people survived, and among these 20, there were still 7 or 8 people in the encirclement. Rumble! With a huge sound, the 7 or 8 people in the encirclement were completely annihilated. The one who acted was the white-haired old man who had just arrived. His body was similarly covered in golden fur, and his 2 eyebrows were extremely conspicuous, like 2 flying dragons. Great Elder, sang Qing and Bian bowed. The white-haired old man looked at Goldwind Saint Sun. How could so many people die? Goldwind Saint Sun sucked in a deep breath and said gloomily, "I miscalculated." Apart from the 2 people reported by the sacred snake, there was another more powerful person. I couldn't stop him. Before departing, the clan had already received the news of the outsiders. The arrival of the billowing saint race's great elder was within his expectations. The white-haired old man nodded and raised his eyes to look at Yi Chun and the rest severally away. Suddenly, his brows raised and he said in a low voice, "Not good. That's the conveyor gate of the sacred land. You 3 follow me. The rest of you return to the clan to rest." Swish! As soon as his words faded, the white-haired old man shot out like an arrow leaving a bow. Goldwind Saint Sun, Sang Qing, and Bian didn't dare to be negligent and chased after the white-haired old man. The speed of the 4 was too fast, especially the white-haired old man. Under the amplification of his will, each step he took covered 200 to 300 meters. As he caught up to the Sea of Soul Realm experts, he waved his palm, and a frightening will storm instantly crushed them to death. There's a conveyor gate on that mountain. Hurry! At this moment, speed was life. If they were not fast enough, they would be caught by the white-haired old man sooner or later. With the means of killing Sea of Soul Realm experts in an instant, even if they joined hands, they wouldn't be his opponent. Yi Chun pulled Murong Qingqing's hand. His sword intent surged to the limit, bringing the 2 with him. Chapter 435. Flawless. The white-haired elder's willpower was unbelievably powerful. With a thought, 2 huge mental power webs were formed instantly, blocking in front of Yi Chun and the others. It seemed like they were about to close up. Yi Chun frowned. The white-haired elder's will net could not be mentioned in the same breath as Goldwind Saint Sun's. It looked like a huge net, but in fact, it was covered by a thin layer of will without a single gap. Apart from that, these two nets were not just one layer, but 3 layers. If the 3 layers were stacked on top of each other, then it would be fine. However, these 3 layers were unique, intertwining with each other without any connection point. Yichen was very clear that it was impossible to cut open the will net in a short time. By the time he did so, the white-haired elder would have already caught up. Therefore, if he wanted to live, he had to break through the 2 will nets before they closed. If he was 1 step slower, then he would die. Thinking up to here, Yichen's forehead swelled like a diamond bead. The sword's soul embryo in his soul blossomed with halos one after another. Surging sword intent swept out like raging waves, wrapping around Yichen and pushing him forward at an extreme speed. At this moment, Yichen's sword's soul embryo was fully activated for the first time. How could demon ancestor and master Jade not see how frightening the will nets were? They also did not have the confidence to tear them apart in an instant. After all, martial will was still inferior to sword will in terms of offense, and the difference was not just 1 or 2 levels. In Wind Escape, as a master-level expert, Demon Ancestor had created 2 profound sense martial skills. One was Demon Chop, and the other was Wind Escape. As for using Earth as Sky, it was not created by him. Instead, he had cultivated the profound sense martial skills of his predecessors. Wind Escape, as the name suggested, was a profound sense movement art. Demon Ancestor had only created it in the past 10 years. Although he had lost his Zhen Yuan and could not display the essence of this movement art, he did not have too many thoughts about it at the moment. With a flash of the gray whirlwind, the figure of the Demon Ancestor disappeared. Master J-Driver's reaction was not slower than Master Demon's at all. The profound movement art he had used was thousandly in one stroke. One could tell that it was extraordinary just from the name alone. In fact, this movement art was indeed extraordinary. It was only a step away from the mid-grade profound, and was at the peak of low-grade profounds. The Jade Spirit Master's figure paused for a moment, and his speed became more and more exaggerated. There was no obstruction along the way, and even the naked I could not catch up to him. Xiao! Yichen brought Murong Qingsheng and broke through ahead of time. At this moment, the mental power net was about to close up. Just when the 2 mental power nets were about to close up, the Demon Ancestor slashed them apart and rushed out of the blockade with Master Jade. The white-haired old man's face darkened when he saw this scene. He didn't expect that his all-out attack would still allow the 4 of them to escape. If they were allowed to enter the sacred land through the teleportation gate, where would the billowing Saint tribe hide their face? One had to know that this had happened once a year ago. The white-haired old man stretched out his left hand and clenched it. Puff! At the same time, the 2 spiritual power webs merged together and formed a circle, completely trapping Old Man Sky Eagle, Taoist Black Snake, Taoist Ironwood, and the others. Under their despairing gazes, the spiritual power webs suddenly shrunk, squeezing them to death. At this point, only Yichen and the other 3 were left in the underground world. They had suffered heavy casualties, and even the Taoist masters had died. They were less than 50 miles away from the mountain peak with the teleportation gate. In the past, 50 miles would only take 2 to 3 blinks of an eye for a Grandmaster. Unfortunately, in the underground world, they couldn't break the speed of sound no matter how hard they tried. There was a huge difference. Shoo, 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 Goldwind Saint Child, and the other 2 kept attacking Yichen and the other 3. Mental power blades, spears, and hammers rained down like a torrential storm. If not for the fact that the distance between them wasn't too close, the chances of the 4 escaping was less than 30%. Even now, they were still in a precarious situation. 40 li, 30 li, 20 li. Seeing that the 4 were about to reach the peak, the white-haired old man took a deep breath and said in a low voice, "Seems like we have to get serious." Hearing this, Goldwind Saint Child and the other 2 were shocked. They couldn't care less about attacking Yichen and the rest, and frantically retreated. At the same time, they set up layer after layer of mental power barriers, as if something terrible was about to happen. Taking a deep breath, the white-haired old man suddenly roared out loud. With him as the center, a shapeless mass of consciousness began to spin unbelievably, like a rolling snowball. The scope of the consciousness storm grew larger and larger, and the spinning power grew stronger and stronger. It seemed as if a void tornado that connected the sky and the earth had risen in the void, spreading rapidly in all directions, affecting the surroundings. Not good. Demon Ancestor and Master Jade River were behind Yi Chun and the other two, and were the closest to the white-haired old man. As soon as the mental power tornado formed, they felt a suction force sweeping over, reducing their speed. They realized that this mental power tornado was no different from the one they came in with. The only difference was that it was 10 times or even 100 times stronger. Bastard, Demon Ancestor was furious. As far as he was concerned, apart from the high and mighty life and death kings, nobody had ever been able to force him into such an awkward situation. Not even the famous master-level experts could do it. After all, there was a huge difference between being defeated and being beaten to the point where he couldn't even retaliate. If we were on the surface, none of us would need to be afraid of him. Master Jade River felt both sullen and helpless. At this moment, they could only think of one sentence. A tiger falling into a plain would be bullied by dogs, and a dragon swimming in shallow waters would be toyed with by shrimps. Even at his peak, the white-haired old man would be equal to them, perhaps even inferior. Come here. The white-haired old man had no interest in the two sullenness. He continued to push his mental power, and the rotation speed of the mental power tornado suddenly increased, making it impossible for Demon Ancestor and Master Jade River to advance. Of course, the white-haired old man's movements were also very slow. At this critical moment, a cruel light flickered in Demon Ancestor's eyes. Master Jade River sensed it and said in alarm, Demon Ancestor, you dare. Why wouldn't I dare? 2 dead is better than 1 alive. Master Jade River, you can die in my place. A palm imprinted on Master Jade River's chest. Demon Ancestor borrowed the recoil to advance at high speed, while Master Jade River spurted out a mouthful of blood and was swept away by the mental power tornado without any suspense. He still wanted to resist, but the white-haired old man's mental power was so powerful that he couldn't resist at all. In a few moments, he was heavily injured, and his head exploded by the white-haired old man's fist. Seeing this scene, Yichen didn't feel anything. At this critical moment of life and death, he would have done the same. Of course, this was on the premise that the two didn't have any deep friendship. Don't even think of escaping. After killing Master Jade River, the white-haired old man looked at Demon Ancestor, Yi Chun, and the other two once again. With a thought, the tornado became more and more powerful. Even the smaller mountains were swept over, shattering into pieces. Some of the rivers even flowed back, seeming to be sucked into the tornado. Soon, feeling that the sucking power of the tornado was getting more and more powerful, Yichen had no choice but to push his sword spirit to its limit, activating his sword intent to increase its speed. The good thing was that the sword intent was indeed a great weapon when it came to increasing speed. The sucking power of the mental power tornado had just reached him when it was sliced open, giving Yi Chen more space to escape. 9 li, 5 li, 3 li, 1 li. When there was still 1 li to go, Yi Chen could already clearly see the patterns and the marks left behind by the passage of time. Demon Ancestor was right behind him, and the distance between them was less than 150 meters. The 3 of them, 2 in front and 1 behind, were in a race against death. Several li away, with the aid of the mental power tornado, the white-haired old man could easily sense the 3 of them. He slightly slowed down the mental power tornado, and then suddenly increased it again. This slow seemed insignificant, even superfluous. However, the effect it had was incomparably huge. It was like fishing. If you pulled on the fishing line without letting go, the fish would be in a deadlock with you. However, if you loosened the fishing line and suddenly pulled it up, the fish would be instantly pulled up. Yi Chun and the other two situation was similar to the fish. Under the white-haired old man's ingenious manipulation, their feet actually left the ground, and instead of advancing, they retreated. Demonic palm imprint, annihilation. A black light flickered in Murong Qingqing's eyes. She turned around and struck out with her palm, and the suction force was reduced by 30%. The demonic palm imprint's annihilation could annihilate all living things, but it did not include will. Unfortunately, mental power was not will. Although mental power was many times stronger than will, it was also because of this that it was no longer pure and could be traced. Murong Qingqing's palm had directly scattered a portion of the mental power, transforming it into pure will. Naturally, the suction force was reduced by a lot. Of course, it was also because the distance was too far and the white-haired old man's mental power was relatively weak. After all, the gap between the two was too big. Feeling his body lighten, Yi Chun grabbed the opportunity and arrived beside the passage gate with a few flashes. Then, he brought Murong Qingqing into the whirlpool. You're dead for sure. When we reach the outside world, I'll make you die without a burial place. A demon ancestor gnashed his teeth while throwing out 2 high-grade artifacts and roared, "Explode!" Rumble. The high-grade artifacts did not explode, but the demon ancestor's will that was stored inside exploded. This bit of will explosion did not pose much of a threat, but it was precisely because of this bit of will explosion that the deadlock situation became unbalanced. Demon ancestor's calculation was correct. 1 high-grade artifact was not enough, and only 2 high-grade artifacts could barely break the balance. The reason why the will could explode was because high-grade artifacts had the ability to store a bit of will. Otherwise, if one's own will exploded, their martial spirit would completely collapse, and they would be deader than dead. Swish! Not caring about the heartache of losing 2 high-grade artifacts, demon ancestor's figure flickered, disappearing into the passage gate. The mental power tornado dispersed, and the white-haired old man flew over with a pale face. He reached out his hand to grab the somewhat damaged high-grade artifact and said with an ashen face, "I don't believe that every outsider can pass the Holy Land's trial. If you can't, all of you will become new stone statues." Chapter 436. The Holy Land was not the Holy Land of the Billowing Saint clan, but the Holy Land of the first layer of the underground world. It was said that it was closely related to the Holy Land of the second layer. A year ago, Serenity was supposed to be married to a powerful saint son of a saint clan in the second layer of the underground world. At that time, she and that outsider young man had just left the Holy Land, causing the Billowing Saint clan to lose a lot of face. The Holy Land was very dangerous. If the underground humans entered, they would most likely die. No, not even 1 out of 100 would survive. However, what made the underground humans puzzled was that the chances of outsiders surviving in the Holy Land were much higher. At least, there were many examples of that. The greater the danger, the greater the benefits. The Holy Land had existed since the ancient times and contained many secrets and treasures. Every 100 years, the Billowing Saint clan would organize a team to enter the Holy Land, and so would some of the surrounding saint clans. This time, it had not even been 100 years. Being alone, the white-haired elder did not dare to enter. Head elder, did they enter? Goldwind Saint's son and the other 2 flew over. The white-haired elder said expressionlessly, "This matter is over. Let's go back." No matter how unwilling he was, this mission had failed. Count them lucky, but I wonder how long this luck will last. Who knows, the next time we enter the Holy Land, we might see their statues. Goldwind Saint's son said coldly, "Woo woo woo, woo 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 woo." The black gale blew everywhere like the scythe of the Grim Reaper. Everywhere it passed, it would let out a woo-woo sound, and the towering mountain peaks would be shaved off. The moment Yi Chun and Murong Qingqing appeared, they saw a gust of black wind blowing over. The 2 subconsciously strengthened their defense. What surprised them was that the Zhen Yuan that had been compressed in the deepest part of their dantian broke free and formed a layer of protective Zhen Yuan outside their bodies, firmly protecting them. The Zhen Yuan here is not restricted. Murong Qingqing said after resisting the black wind with some difficulty. Yi-chan said, "My spirit power is still being suppressed." No wonder they did not catch up. When the spirit power was suppressed, the soul would also be suppressed. Once the soul was weakened, the will would naturally be affected. As for how much the will was suppressed in the underground world, Yi-chun did not know. Pitter-patter, as the black wind collided with Yi-chen's protective true essence, it issued a continuous series of explosive sounds. A faint feeling of dizziness suddenly appeared. Yi-chen finally noticed the black wind. After carefully identifying it, he said, "This is the soul-scattering astral wind. It is an astral wind formed from the combination of metal origin energy and dark origin energy. Not only that, but there's also a faint trace of will contained within, making this astral wind comparable to astral energy. The difference between the astral wind and the astral chi was that the former was mixed with the air, which had more impurities. Therefore, its power was not as powerful as the pure astral chi. However, with the enhancement of the weird will, the astral wind's power was not weaker than the astral chi, which was powerful enough to threaten 99% of the astral reaching realm warriors. I wonder if the Yin demon ancestor has entered. Murong Qingsheng frowned slightly. He should be coming in, but there is no need to worry. Yi-chen knew what she was worried about. Since this place could not suppress Zhen Yuan, then the Yin demon ancestor would be a true master-level expert after entering. Even if the two of them joined hands, they would not be able to defeat him with a single hand. However, they did not have any enmity with the Yin demon ancestor, nor did they have any conflicts of interest. Even if they met, it would not be a big deal. As for the future, they could talk about it in the future. The Yin demon ancestor had indeed entered. However, he was not in the same place as Yi-chun and Murong Qingsheng. The moment he came out, a strange gale, faintly emitting 3 colored lights, blew over. Its might was incomparable, almost the same as an all-out attack of an ordinary Sea of Soul Realm expert. However, the next moment, the Yin demon ancestor let out a sigh of relief. He discovered that he could finally use Zhen Yuan. With Zhen Yuan, what could these 3-color gale do? Green, yellow, black. It's actually the soul leaving astral wind. No, it contains a weird will. Its might is not inferior to the astral chi formed by the fusion of 3 kinds of yuan chi. The Yin demon ancestor was somewhat astonished. He had never heard of a will contained in the wind. Was it man-made or natural? Walking on the desolate and hard ground, the Yin demon ancestor was fearless. As long as he had Jin Yuan, not to mention his battle power increasing by several folds, his life-saving means had also increased. The only thing that made him feel a bit pained was that he had lost 2 upper-grade artifacts in order to get rid of the white-haired old man. It should be known that even if he was a master-level expert, he did not have many upper-grade artifacts. At this moment, he only had 1 upper-grade artifact left. The Yin demon ancestor's brows twitched. As he retreated, he slashed out with his blade. Pucci, the huge centipede that had just popped out, had its head chopped off, black juices splattering everywhere. 9th grade, ancient demonic beast, Black Mountain Centipede. The Yin demon ancestor recognized the centipede with a single glance. A centipede died, but it did not stop moving. Although the centipede had its head chopped off, its lower body still broke out of the ground and swept toward the Yin demon ancestor. Courting death. The Yin demon ancestor sneered. Being chased by the white-haired old man had always annoyed him, and he had been wondering where to vent it. With a wave of his blade, dozens of sawtoothed blade chi crisscrossed. The centipede was instantly dismembered, its flesh scattering in all directions. While the Yin demon ancestor had dealt with the Black Mountain Centipede, Yi-chun and Murong Qingsheng were besieged by a group of 7th grade ancient demonic beasts, snake-scaled wolves. The snake-scaled wolf was a mutated demonic beast. Its body was like a wolf, but it was several times bigger than an ordinary wolf. It was more than 2 meters tall, and it had no fur on its body. Instead, it had scales that flickered with dark blue radiance. These scales were very small compared to its huge body, only the size of a thumb. However, It was precisely because of this that the densely packed scales of the snake-scaled wolf had a very high defense, comparable to some 8th-grade demonic beasts. From time to time, the snake-scaled wolf would spit out a ball of black light, bombarding Yi Chun and Murong Qingchen. Green Lotus Qi Transformation. Like a porcupine, countless sword qi shot out from Yi Chun's body. After a round of attacks, a large number of snake-scaled wolves died. With Yi Chun's strength, not to mention a large group of 7th-grade demonic beasts, even a large group of 8th-grade demonic beasts would not be able to do anything to him. Just as the two of them were about to eliminate all the snake-scaled wolves, the remaining ones seemed to have sensed something and ran desperately in a certain direction. Yi Chun did not think that the snake-scaled wolves were afraid. He had killed so many of them before, but they were not afraid at all. Following the gaze of a snake-scaled wolf as it turned around, Yi Chun turned his head to look. On the horizon, a layer of black qi was moving towards them. The speed of the black qi was extremely fast, allowing Yi Chun to clearly see its appearance. Rather than calling it black qi, it would be more accurate to call it black mist. This black mist that covered the entire mountain was like a ghostly mist, from which ghostly wails and wolf howls could be heard. Faintly, Yi Chun could see many blurry human faces and human bodies, as well as the vague silhouettes of some demonic beasts. Wherever the black mist went, the demonic beasts that were hidden in the depths would be swept out. Their bodies would rapidly decay, and a mass of light would merge into the black mist. Soul Devour. Yi Chun's complexion changed. Not caring about hiding anything, he took out his flying puppet from his storage ring. Yi Chun had 2 flying puppets, a leopard puppet and a rock puppet. The leopard puppet was equipped with mid-grade spirit stones, while the rock puppet was equipped with upper-grade spirit stones. This way, he could change them at any time at a critical moment. At this moment, Yi Chun took out the rock puppet. "Get on!" Leaping onto the back of the rock puppet, Yi Chun said. Murong Qingchen was somewhat astonished and quickly jumped on. Swish! With the upper-grade spirit stones as the driving force, the rock puppet speed was as fast as an aurora. In 2 or 3 blinks of an eye, its speed had increased to 5 times the speed of sound, then 7 times the speed of sound, and then 10 times the speed of sound. It was as fast as lightning, leaving all the snake-scaled wolves behind. "This is an upper-grade flying puppet?" Murong Qingchen asked. Yi Chun nodded. "I found it in the ruins of a puppet sect branch. Its maximum speed is 10 times the speed of sound, comparable to ordinary C of Soul Realm experts. However, it consumes upper-grade spirit stones. The black mist speed was at least 6 or 7 times the speed of sound." The snake-scaled wolves were overtaken without any leeway to resist. Their bodies decayed one after another, and their souls floated out. The scene was extremely spectacular and horrifying, as if they had arrived at a hellish world. Half an hour later, the two of them rode on the giant rock puppet and traveled 25,000 miles away, leaving the soul-devouring black fog far behind. Putting away the rock puppet, the two landed on the ground. As far as the eye could see, it was a wilderness overgrown with weeds. Strangely, they could see a stone statue every few meters. These stone statues were either standing, sitting, lying on the ground, or buried in the soil. They didn't know if it was an illusion, but the expressions of the stone statues were vivid and lifelike, as if they had a mind of their own. Their originally expressionless faces all had a hint of a strange smile. They don't look any different from the statues in the Stoneman Array. Yi Chun recalled that the Stoneman Array had fallen into the underground world together with the Undying Altar. There might be some unknown relationship between the two. Kacha! When he passed by a half-buried statue of a stone man, a few cracks suddenly appeared in the soil beside the statue. Murong Qingchen cautiously said, "There's something inside the statue." As soon as she said those words, the statue broke out of the soil. A cold smile appeared on its stone face as it twisted its arm and punched toward the two. Heaven's rebuke. Murong Qingchen's palm met the attack, and the statue was knocked back dozens of meters by the repulsive force. Kacha! 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 The surrounding stone golem statues all came to life, and the smiles on their faces were either eerie or demented. If it wasn't a cruel smile, it wouldn't look like a normal smile. It gave off a chilling feeling, and it was incredibly evil. Sky Thundercut. Yichen didn't dare to be careless. He threw out his most powerful sword attack. The sword light was like snow as it cut down 7 or 8 statues in a straight line. The statues were cut open, and black smoke rose from the broken parts. Then, the upper parts reconnected without a trace of damage. Undying body. Yichun and Murong Qingsheng both thought about the undying body. They had come to the underground world because of the undying body. It was very unlikely that the undying body had nothing to do with the underground world. However, this kind of undying body was too creepy, and normal people wouldn't choose it. Of course, it was just their guess. No one knew what the real undying body was like. Chapter 437. Demonic Palm Imprint. As more and more statues rushed over, Murong Qingsheng threw out a palm imprint in the direction with the most number. The palm energy contained the annihilation attribute, caused all the statues in the area to float in the air. As if they had lost their gravity, they were immediately annihilated. However, in the next moment, the black smoke once again gathered the countless stone powders and reformed the statues. The undying stone statue was unexpectedly difficult to deal with. Seems like I'll have to use the attributed sword intent. Back in the Sun God Palace, Yichen had used the slaughter sword intent to shave off a lot of the undying monsters' yuan qi, making them unable to recover their peak battle power in a short period of time. The more they fought, the weaker they became. At this moment, the slaughter sword intent naturally couldn't be used because the opponent was not a living being. It was the same Sky Thundercut, but because it contained the destruction sword intent, it was much more powerful than the ordinary Sky Thundercut. As the sword slashed out, the destructive aura released by the sword was enough to make people tremble in fear. The weeds in a straight line instantly lost their vitality. Not only did they wither, but they were also incinerated into black powder. The blazing sword light swept out in all directions, causing the dozen statues to pause for a moment. Several large and small sword scars appeared on their bodies. At this moment, the black smoke within the sword scars couldn't come out all. Every strand that came out would be erased by the remnant destruction sword intent. The destruction sword intent had restrained the undying bodies of the statues. Restrained. Murong Qingsheng didn't know much about attributed sword intent. She only knew that once one comprehended an attributed sword intent, one sword Dao would far surpass others. For example, a life and death king who comprehended an attributed sword intent would be stronger than a life and death king with ordinary sword intent. As for why some life and death kings couldn't comprehend an attributed sword intent, it was not only because of their comprehension ability, but also because of their soul. After all, there was a gap between people. No matter how rich a cripple was, he would still be a cripple. As far as she knew, Yichen had more than one attributed sword intent. He should have 3. One person comprehending 3 attributed sword intents was something that had never happened in the history of true Spirit Continent. If he could cultivate 3 attributed sword intents to the life and death realm, his sword Dao would be absolutely terrifying. As for whether he could surpass the ancient Sword King and become the second Sword King or the first Sword Emperor, she couldn't be sure. After all, comprehensive development was much more difficult than a single development. Even if he was 8 in every aspect, he might not even reach 10 in one aspect. Reaching the pinnacle of any aspect would be extremely frightening. However, no matter what, as long as Yichun reached life and death realm, his achievements would not be low. Green Lotus Mountain Splitter. Holding the Green Lotus Sword, Yichun waved it in a circle. Immediately, a huge sword light shrouded in a destructive aura turned into a perfect blue sun, chopping all the statues in its range into 2. Sizzling sounds could be heard as the black smoke gradually thinned out. Let's go. There was no need to clash head-on with these statues. Yichen chose a direction and continued forward, with Murong Qingsheng following closely behind. After walking for a long time, the two didn't encounter any new statues. Gradually, The two arrived at the side of a huge river. The river was dozens of li wide and immeasurably long. In this dusky environment, the river gave off a cold and emotionless feeling. On the riverside stood a huge stone stele with 6 large black words written on it. Demon statue heart, soul, extinguishing wave. For a moment, the two couldn't understand the meaning of these words, but they didn't pay any attention to it and continued forward along the river. After traveling for about 10 miles, the river gradually became turbulent, forming whirlpools. It turned out that this place was the intersection of 3 rivers, and on one side of the intersection stood a huge black mountain. The position of the black mountain facing the river was actually a 100 meters tall stone statue built on half of the mountain. The stone statue was built according to the mountain, and it was one with the mountain, completely indistinguishable from each other. The stone statue's color was azure with a hint of black. It was sitting there, and its hands and feet were not those of humans, but those of a demonic beast. For some unknown reason, the two felt an extremely frightening demonic intent from the stone statue. Under this demonic intent, the entire stone statue seemed to have come to life. It was clearly a demon statue. Demon statue heart. Could it be referring to this demon statue? No matter how I look at it, this demon statue is not an ordinary one. Yichen was very clear that since the stone statue could come to life and surround them, this demon statue should be even more powerful. He just didn't know what the demon statue's heart was referring to. Sitting near the intersection of 3 rivers, the demon statue overlooked the common people. The turbulent river did not calm down because of it, but instead became even more violent and soul-stirring. If this was the outside world, it was unknown how many cargo ships would have met with mishaps here. Buzz! The demon statue's eyeballs suddenly turned, and as its eyeballs turned, the wind and clouds in the world changed, and waves rose up from the river, rushing towards the two. In the next moment, the demon statue suddenly stood up. The moment it stood up, the space around it trembled, and a terrifying demonic intent covered the sky and earth, radiating out in all directions. Demonic will. Yichun took a deep breath. He wasn't surprised by the demon statue coming to life. What surprised him was that the demon statue contained a completely different martial will. It was clearly the extremely rare demonic will. The demonic will was the same as the sword will. Both originated from the martial way, but it had already formed a perfect system. In ancient times, those who possessed the demonic were the true demons. After splitting apart the waves with a sword, Yi Chun and Murong Qingsheng looked straight at the demon statue. Rumble. The demon statue's body was slightly stiff when it stood up, but when it punched out, one could see how fast it was. Before the fist arrived, the fist pressure had already scattered the gray clouds in the sky. Under the enhancement of the demonic will, the majestic fist force seemed to be able to penetrate through the earth. Without any hesitation, Yi Chun met the fist force with his sword. Instant. Thunder rumbled in the sky, and everything within a radius of dozens of miles darkened. Dark clouds gathered from all directions, pouring down thunder and lightning. The river below was directly evaporated into the sky by the explosive power of the sword chi and the fist force, revealing the pitch-black riverbed. Involuntarily, Yi Chun glided hundreds of meters away, his clothes fluttering in the wind like flags. Force field cut. Murong Qingqing's intuition told her that the demon statue would be of great use to her, so she also launched an attack. 2 completely opposite force fields clashed together, forming a horrifying cutting power, cutting towards the demon statue's head. At the same time, she pushed the sky demon power field to its limit, just in case. Crack! The demon statue's reaction was very slow, and the cutting force field cut out a huge cut on its neck. Of course, compared to its body size, the cut was still a bit small, so it was not a big deal. Its eyes turned to Murong Qingsheng, and it threw out another punch. Puff! The sky demon power field outside Murong Qingqing's body instantly collapsed, and she spurted out a mouthful of blood, flying back several thousand meters. However, in Yi Chen's eyes, it had a different meaning. As far as he was concerned, this was Murong Qingqing's true strength, or close to it. Otherwise, ordinary extreme astral-reaching experts would not be able to survive this strike, even if they had condensed a martial soul embryo. Sucking in a deep breath, the sword intent on Yi Chen's body became increasingly dense, piercing through the dark clouds in the sky. His entire body seemed like an unsheathed, peerless sword. Swish! Extending his body, Yi Chen shot toward the demonic statue and slashed out in the air. The might of this slash was unfathomable. Half of the demon statue's body was almost cut open. What made Yi Chen a bit surprised was that the demon statue didn't have an undying body, and the cut couldn't be healed. As for what was pushing it, it was probably the remnant demonic will. The demon statue's body swayed, but it still threw out a stiff punch. The range of the fist energy was too large, and Yi Chen couldn't avoid it. Therefore, he could only block with his sword and retreat several hundred meters, his blood and qi boiling. At this moment, Murong Qingqing charged over with blood staining the corner of her mouth. Facing the demon statue, she used the Sky Demon Palm imprint Sky Rebuke. Originally, this palm couldn't pose any threat to the demon statue. However, Yi Chen's sword strike had cut open half of the demon statue's body, causing its upper body to sway, as if it would collapse at any moment. This caused Murong Qingqing's palm strike to cover its body with cracks. The demon statue, covered in cracks, didn't feel any pain. It punched out, and with a swish, a finger unexpectedly fell off. It turned out that it was already falling off when it clashed with Yi Chen. Now that it punched out, the finger shot out at an unimaginable speed, containing a tyrannical demonic will. Danger! Yi Chen swung out a sword light, cutting off the demon statue's finger. However, the demon statue's finger that had lost half of its finger still hit Murong Qingqing, bringing her body several miles away. In midair, Murong Qingqing's blood stained the finger, and a shocking scene happened. The finger and the demonic will on the demon statue in the distance left the body, pouring into Murong Qingqing's soul sea between her eyebrows. Without the support of the demonic will, the demon statue suddenly collapsed. Only the right part of its chest remained, flying towards Murong Qingqing. The demon statue's heart, so that's how it is. Yi Chen breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that the entire demon statue was a demonic inheritance. In its chest, there should be the soul destruction wave. Murong Qingqing cultivated the demonic cultivation method, so she naturally accepted this demonic inheritance. As the demonic will poured into her soul sea, a strange look flashed across Murong Qingqing's face. Seeing the piece of the demon statue's chest flying towards her, she reached out and caught it. Pack! The stone shattered, revealing a piece of jade, a black jade. Are you okay? Yi Chen flew over and asked. Murong Qingqing shook her head. I'm fine, but my martial will has directly transformed into the demonic will, and the embryonic form of my martial soul has also become the embryonic form of the demonic soul. Furthermore, it has advanced one step, approaching the true demonic soul. The soul has its own characteristics. Since the demonic will has accepted you, it means that you are suitable for the demonic Tao. With the Battle King's vast knowledge, how could Yi Chen not know about this? Some people couldn't comprehend the sword soul. Apart from the comprehension ability, it was also related to the soul. The soul could only accept ordinary sword wills, so it would be hard for one to have an elemental sword will. Murong Qingqing's martial will had smoothly transformed into the demonic will, which meant that she was naturally suitable for the demonic Tao. Chapter 438. Without thinking too much, Murong Qingqing focused her attention on the black jade. It was shining with a soft light, and it was very warm to the touch. As she poured in her Zhen Yuan, a picture suddenly appeared in her mind and started to play. On the Crimson Wasteland, a real demon floated under the crimson moon. The demon had black bat wings on its back, 2 horns on its head, and silver pupils. There was no skin on its body, only a layer of armor. The demon was more than 2 meters tall, and from its appearance, it looked no different from a human. However, at a glance, there was only one feeling in the depths of one's heart, and that was that it was strong. It was not strong in terms of strength, but strong in nature. It seemed to be a powerful existence that was above humans. In front of the demon was a human in a black robe. If the demon was a natural demon, then this black-robed man was a postnatal demon. There was a black aura lingering around his body. This aura seemed to have a spirit, wisp by wisp. Boom! The evil demon with bat wings on its back chopped out with a hand blade, and a dark light covered the sky. Suddenly, the sky was shattered, and the earth cracked. Soul extinguishing wave. The black-robed man raised his head, and his eyes revealed an arrogant and domineering look. He shook his palm, and the same black light condensed into a ball, which then shot out in a fan shape. Its power increased continuously, and not only did it cancel out the evil demon's attack, it even sent the opponent flying hundreds of miles away. In silence, the evil demon seemed to have lost its soul, and its body fell from the sky without a trace of injury. Murong Qingcheng, who was still in shock, tensed up. In her mind, the black-robed man smiled at her, and the fan-shaped light drowned her thoughts. Yichen did not disturb Murong Qingcheng, who was still motionless. He had the experience of receiving profound sense martial arts, so he knew that during the process of receiving information, his mind would be in a mess, and he would not be able to wake up for a while. If he disturbed her forcefully, it might hurt her spirit. After a long time, Murong Qingcheng opened her eyes. So, the soul-extinguishing wave is a low-rank, profound sense martial art, and its attack focuses on the soul. If the soul defense is not strong, no matter how strong the body is, it would be useless. Yichen was slightly surprised as he said, a low-rank, profound sense martial art that focuses on soul attacks. This is almost equivalent to a normal mid-rank, profound sense martial art. The soul was different from the body. It was extremely fragile. If an ordinary Sea of Soul realm expert were to grasp the soul-extinguishing wave, they would be able to kill a Taoist or even a master-level expert. Of course, this Sea of Soul realm expert would also be instantly killed. Hiss! While the two of them were talking, a horned serpent suddenly shot out from the river that had just been refilled. The horned serpent was unknown in length, and its thickness reached an astonishing 10 meters. Its entire body was covered with scales the size of wash basins, and its head, which was the size of a tall building, was no different from an awl. As the serpent flicked its tongue, it was like a blood-red spear that was more than 10 meters long, and its speed was ridiculously fast. A strong gust of wind swept across, and the horned serpent pounced towards the two of them. The demonic aura that soared up into the sky caused the sky to darken once again. Lightning bolts streaked across the sky, striking down vertically. A few mountains nearby were forcibly blasted away, and charred rocks flew all over the sky. Murong Qingcheng wanted to test the strength of the demonic will. Her body did not move at all, and she sent out a palm that contained an unparalleled demonic will. Pung! The horned serpent snapped, and a huge palm imprint appeared on its forehead. Black chi rose from the palm imprint, and the serpent's huge body was blasted away before it could completely leave the river. Its head smashed into the mountain where the demonic statue was, and it died instantly. An 8th grade ancient demonic beast could not even withstand a palm strike from Murong Qingcheng. It should be known that ancient demonic beasts were much more powerful than the current demonic beasts. A 7th grade ancient demonic beast could contend against 8th grade demonic beasts, and an 8th grade ancient demonic beast was equivalent to a 9th grade demonic beast. Even if it was not as powerful, it was not much weaker. However, it was still killed in one strike. The might of the demonic will was unfathomable. As the owner of the demonic will, Murong Qingcheng understood the pros and cons better than Yichen. She said, the demonic will is similar to the sword will in that it discards the amplification of defense and strengthens the offense. Moreover, it seems to have some side effects that are not really flaws. The same path of attack. Yichen was very clear that there was no strong or weak will. Martial will walk the path of balance, developing offense, speed, and defense. The sword will was the strongest in offense, followed by speed, and the weakest in defense. The demonic was probably the same. Otherwise, it would be impossible for it to have such power. As for the subtle differences, he did not know. After all, he and Battle King had both comprehended sword will. Let's go. We might be able to find a way out here. At this moment, Yichen no longer wanted to obtain anything. His only thought was to leave this underground world. Murong Qingqing nodded. Looking at the hundreds of meters tall stone statue, demon ancestor's face twitched. It was fine if it had the strength of a Taoist, but it actually had an undying body. No matter how he hit it, there was no damage at all. This left him completely helpless. Rumble. The stone statue punched out, and the wind from the fist scraped off layer after layer of the ground. Demon chop. Demon ancestor raised his blade and went up. One statue and one man fought for hundreds of rounds, but they could not do anything to the other. In the end, demon ancestor had no choice but to give up and use earth as sky to knock the statue down. He then used the wind escape technique and quickly left this place. One day and one night. After flying for a whole day and night, demon ancestor finally got rid of the statue. The other party's speed almost made him collapse. Fortunately, it was still a bit slower than him. After a whole day, that bit of speed increased to tens of thousands of lian. There is a huge mountain range in front. On the plains, demon ancestor looked at the distant mountain range. It was very different from the mountain ranges outside. The mountain was black, and the sky was also black like night. However, outside of the mountain range, it was a dusky day. The two formed a sharp contrast. Let's go in and take a look first. Just like Yi Chun, the demon ancestor did not have the urge to get the undying body anymore. Of course, the undying body was placed right in front of him. He just wanted to leave the underground world and return to his own world. Otherwise, he would not be able to guarantee his own survival if he continued to stay here. No matter if it was the underground humans or the stone statues, they both made him feel extremely tired. Swish! Increasing his speed to about 8 times out of sound, demon ancestor carefully entered the mountain range. In the depths of the mountain range, 2 figures were flying. They were precisely Yi Chun and Murong Qingqing. With the demonic will and the devil soul embryo reaching the critical point, Murong Qingqing's speed was not much inferior to Yi Chun's. Her combat power had even doubled. Her gains could not be said to be small. There's something strange over there. Murong Qingqing's vision was extremely powerful. Even from thousands of li away, she could see the abnormality in the center of the mountain range. That area was filled with a layer of faint white light, as if there was a huge source of light. Let's go over. Yi Chun had also seen it, and his speed had increased by 30%. After a quarter of an hour, the two arrived at the place where the light was shining. The scene in front of them surprised them a bit. What entered their eyes was a vast valley filled with white light. Although it was called light, it was actually a bit like fog. To be more precise, it was countless rays of light entangled together. These rays of light were extremely twisted and wriggling unceasingly. Throwing a stone in and seeing that there was nothing strange, the two operated their protective Zhenyuan and walked step by step into the valley. The white rays of light made contact with the protective Zhen Yuan soundlessly, and there was no effect at all. However, the two could feel that the white rays of light and protective Zhen Yuan had made contact. Moreover, there seemed to be some interaction between the two, as if they wanted to fuse together. After walking for dozens of li, the two saw an altar, an enlarged version of the undying altar. It was 100 meters tall and 400 meters wide, with 6 pillars that looked like they could support the heavens, reaching all the way into the pitch-black sky. The white rays of light were seeping out from these pillars. However, the higher they went, the darker the light became. The surface of the altar was the most dazzling. Undying altar, it should be the undying altar. I didn't think there would be an undying altar here as well. Yichen carefully examined it, and could confirm that this altar was exactly the same as the one he had seen when he first entered. The only difference was probably the size. Arriving near the altar, Yi Chun found another beam of light shooting out from the center of the altar, shining on the opposite rock wall. The rock wall was as smooth as a mirror, just like the wall of a god. It was grand and vast, emitting a boundless ancient aura. Meanwhile, the light was shining on a hollow in the center. Surrounding the hollow were many human-shaped pits of different sizes. The big ones were around 100 meters, while the small ones were only a dozen meters. In front of the rock wall was a stone stele. On the stele, there were 4 ancient characters: undying rock wall. Could there really be an undying body? Undying altar, undying rock wall, and the pits on the undying rock wall. Each one seemed to have thought of something, but at the same time, he didn't seem to have thought of anything. He only knew that he needed to remember something, otherwise, he wouldn't be able to solve it. Murong Qingcheng said hesitantly, "Don't you think that the size of these pits is the same as the statues in the Stoneman spell?" "Yes, they're the golem statues." With Murong Qingcheng's reminder, Yi Chan immediately recalled that these pits were about the same size as the golem statues. Even their shapes were similar. In order to solve this puzzle, they would have to replace the golem statues that fell from the surface. However, that rainforest was too far away from here, and the two of them had no way to get out, let alone bring them here. How could they accomplish their goal? Forget it. Let's see what mysteries this undying altar has. Yi Chan focused his attention on the undying altar. Looking at the base of the altar, Yi Chan saw an inconspicuous crack. This wasn't a crack caused by damage, but a crack formed by 2 objects sticking together. The altar seemed to be able to rotate. Clatter, clatter. Placing his palm on the edge of the altar, Yi Chan pushed it in a certain direction. Just as he expected, the top half of the altar slowly rotated, and the light emitted from the center of the altar began to change colors. Chapter 439. 3 Colors. For colors. When the radiance changed from single to 6 colors, the entire undying rock wall started to tremble. Shortly after, a radiance was emitted from a human-shaped crater on the wall. This radiance was so penetrative that the surface of the wall turned transparent, as if it was a huge piece of 6-colored, unpolished jade. In the next moment, the undying rock wall shone brightly, illuminating the surroundings. The pitch-black sky instantly turned white, and halos spread out continuously. "What's going on?" Demon Ancestor raised his head and looked at the center of the mountain range. Outside the Holy Land, in the rainforest of the first layer of the underground world, the stone statues that had fallen from the surface suddenly trembled. All of a sudden, all the stone statues left the ground and flew towards the Holy Land. Along the way, the stone statues suddenly disappeared into the void. This scene was witnessed by the Greenwood St. Clans clansmen. They thought that they had seen a miracle, and their mouths were wide open. The stone statues didn't go through the conveyor gate, but directly broke through the spatial layer and arrived in the Holy Land. A strange thing happened. The stone statues in the Holy Land seemed to have sensed the invasion of the foreign stone statues. All of them revived and roared furiously in the direction of the flying statues. Some of the closer ones even chased after the stone statues and attacked crazily, giving off a horrifying feeling of killing each other. Pong, 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 pong. The foreign stone statues blossomed with a resplendent radiance. All the stone statues that came into contact with the radiance instantly crumbled, and their undying bodies lost their effects. The stone statues flew at a very fast speed, appearing and disappearing in the void. In almost a dozen blinks of an eye, they arrived at the Radiant Valley, and then arranged themselves in a formation in the air, embedding themselves into the human-shaped pits on the undying rock wall one by one. Originally, the radiance of the undying rock wall had illuminated the heaven and earth. However, when the stone statues returned to their positions, the radiance quickly retracted and concentrated inside each statue. Complicated patterns appeared on the statues' bodies, and these patterns connected with the obscure patterns on the undying rock wall, forming a complete map. The radiance then followed the map to the center of the undying rock wall, right above the hole. Rumble! A dull sound rang out, and a long stone was pulled out. Although the stone was not gold, it emitted a golden light that was purer than gold. Through the slightly transparent golden stone, Yi Chun and Murong Qingsheng could see that there was a scroll sealed inside, a golden scroll. The golden light was emitted by the scroll and had nothing to do with the stone. Golden scroll. As the initiator, Yi Chun could naturally tell that the golden scroll was extraordinary. He had a hunch that the golden scroll recorded the cultivation secrets of the immortal body. Buzz. Cracks gradually covered the surface of the stone, and rays of even stronger golden light leaked out, causing the stone to look like a golden hedgehog. This was not the end. On top of the stone, a golden shadow gradually took shape. The golden shadow's face was blurry, but the aura it emitted was enough to make people want to worship it. Golden light, golden shadow. Could it be the immortal body? Thousands of li away from the center of the mountain range, demon ancestor's face flashed with astonishment. Back then, when he had obtained the map of the immortal body, there was also a picture on it. On the picture was a golden scroll. Within the golden light emitted by the scroll, there was a golden shadow sitting cross-legged, which was extremely similar to the scene in front of him, although he did not see the golden scroll. Immortal body, yes, it's the immortal body, who opened a restriction and allowed the immortal body to reappear in the world. Bastard, I want him dead. The immortal body belongs to me. All of a sudden, demon ancestor went crazy. What was the purpose of his painstaking research for 50 years? It was still for the immortal body. Previously, he had lost the motivation to search for the immortal body. It was not that he did not care, but because he had not found it, and his body and mind were exhausted. But now, the immortal body was right in front of him. Anyone who tried to stop him would die. His eyes, turning bloodshot, demon ancestor flew toward the center of the mountain range with his fastest speed. Kacha! The stone shattered, and the golden scroll reappeared in the world. It's not a physical object, but an energy body. Yi Chun used his eyesight and discovered that the golden scroll was not a real scroll, but a construct of golden energy. The words on it were faintly discernible, emitting a rhythmic undulation. The golden scroll paused for a moment, then suddenly exploded. Boundless golden light rushed toward Yi Chun and Murong Qingsheng. At that moment, the two even felt that time had stopped, and they could not sense anything. They could not think of anything, and the only thing left was the golden light that filled their vision. Puff! Suddenly, Murong Qingsheng spurted out a mouthful of blood and was blown away by the golden light. Yi Chun, on the other hand, did not receive any injuries and was drowned in the dazzling light. The requirement of the golden scroll on the soul is higher than low-grade, profound martial skills. No wonder. Murong Qingsheng looked pensive. She more or less understood that it was not the golden light that repelled her. In fact, she had been eliminated, and her soul quality was not enough. The golden light gradually converged, forming a golden light ball. Yi Chun was in the middle of the golden light ball, and his emotionless pupils turned golden. If one observed carefully, one could see that there were many strange characters in his pupils. These characters were too small and were constantly rearranging themselves. The moment the light ball was formed, Yi Chun had already recovered his ability to think. He was startled and only checked his mind after realizing his current situation. It is indeed the undying body. It is the undying body scroll. The cultivation secrets of the undying body contained too many characters. The first ones that were arranged correctly were the ones at the front. After they were arranged, Yi Chun could finally confirm that the golden scroll was indeed recording the undying body. However, the undying body seemed to have been separated into two scrolls, and he had only obtained the first one. As for whether there was a second scroll or not, it was still unknown. Soon, the characters were also arranged properly. The undying body scroll has 3 levels. The first level is flesh healing. Any wounds without any defects can be healed in an instant. The so-called wounds without defects were wounds that did not harm the foundation. For example, a cut on the body would be considered as wounds without any defects. However, if an arm or leg was broken, it would not be without defects, but the foundation would be damaged. The first level would not be able to heal the foundation. The second level is limb regrowth. Severed head, severed arm, and legs can be healed in an instant, but it consumes life yuan qi. The more serious the foundation is, the more life yuan qi it consumes. If the life yuan qi is insufficient, it will not be able to heal completely. Once the life yuan qi is exhausted, limb regrowth will lose its effect. Limb regrowth didn't need to be mentioned. As long as one wasn't crushed in a meat paste or split into too many pieces, one could recover. However, limb regrowth was different from flesh healing, as it consumed life yuan qi. What was life yuan qi? It was a person's innate yuan qi. Under normal circumstances, life yuan qi was very difficult to increase, and the gap between qi realm and astral reaching realm was not that big. However, from the astral reaching realm to the sea of soul realm, life yuan qi would suddenly increase by several folds. After all, after reaching the sea of soul realm, one's body would no longer be an ordinary body, and life yuan qi would naturally be incomparably powerful. The third level is flesh regeneration. A piece of flesh can be regenerated, but it consumes a huge amount of life yuan qi. Without enough life yuan qi, the regenerated body will be in a weak state, and the degree of weakness will depend on the amount of life yuan qi. The life and death realm undying body had a total of 3 levels. The first was limb regrowth, the second was flesh regeneration, and the third was blood rebirth. The undying body recorded on the Golden Scroll also had 3 levels. The first was flesh healing, the second was limb regrowth, and the third was flesh regeneration. In other words, the second and third levels were the same as the first and second levels of the life and death realm. If nothing unexpected happened, the realm of blood rebirth should be recorded in the second volume of the undying body. Unfortunately, there are no more characters here. Although flesh healing is not as good as limb regrowth, it's very important for me right now, and it's also relatively easy to learn. Although Yi Chun had the 3,000 years old blood sunflower and the greater half of the heavenly demonic flower, recovering from serious injuries would still require a lot of time. If he could successfully cultivate flesh healing, he would be able to recover to his peak state in an instant, and he wouldn't need to consume life yuan qi at all. Just think about it. In a life and death battle, the opponent would be riddled with scars while you were still in your peak state. The final result was self-evident. The golden sphere suddenly shrunk into a golden pellet and entered Yi Chen's sea of soul between his eyebrows. Yi Chen regained control of his body. At this moment, a figure entered the valley at lightning speed and saw Yi Chen and Murong Qingchen. He also saw the undying altar, undying cliff, and the statues on the cliff. The newcomer was precisely Demon Ancestor. Kid, let me ask you, where's the secret art of undying body? Without any superfluous words, a cold, killing intent flickered on Demon Ancestor's face as he unblinkingly stared at Yi Chen. Yi Chen knew that whatever he said would be useless, so he indifferently said, "No comment." Hee, seems like you've obtained it. Hand it over or die. Demon Ancestor didn't put Yi Chen in his eyes in the slightest. Under the condition of losing his Zhen Yuan, he might be apprehensive of Yi Chen. But at this moment, the latter was no different from an ordinary sea of soul realm expert in his eyes. He could kill him with a flip of his hand. Yi Chen indifferently smiled. Perhaps you won't have the chance. Swish! As his voice faded, Yi Chen jumped onto the undying altar. Murong Qingchen received his message and climbed up almost at the same time. What do you think you're doing? Demon Ancestor had a bad premonition. He furiously roared and slashed at Yi Chen and Murong Qingchen on the altar. Rumble! The blade light bounced off, and the light of the undying altar protected the two within. Do you think you can hide inside forever? Demon Ancestor's aura sword. He extended his right hand, wanting to flip the undying altar. I said, you won't have the chance. Using some unknown method, Yi Chen activated the huge, undying altar, turning it into a beam of white light and fleeing into the distance. Demon Ancestor's face turned ashen as he crazily chased after. Chapter 440. The Undying Altar's speed was unimaginably fast. It gave off the impression that it was leaping through the void. Each leap covered a distance of over 10 kilometers, and after 3 or 4 leaps, it was already over 50 kilometers away. In the end, it was only an illusory white dot. Demon Ancestor was worthy of being a master-level expert. His entire body was shrouded in an indistinct gray whirlwind as he chased after it. Stay here. Following Demon Ancestor's roar, the space around the Undying Altar violently fluctuated, and the cosmos reversed. At the same time, a huge earthen yellow hand descended, wanting to grab the altar. Pop! The huge earthen yellow hand split open, and the Undying Altar broke out of the encirclement. Soon after, it disappeared into the void, completely disappearing from Demon Ancestor's perception. A sawtooth blade light flickered, almost splitting the space apart. Unfortunately, it was a step slower. Demon Ancestor's complexion turned unsightly as he halted. Although he knew that the Undying Altar was extraordinary, he didn't expect it to be able to escape into the void. No matter how powerful he was, as long as he couldn't tear open the space, he wouldn't be able to catch up. When Demon Ancestor, leave, it will be your death, unless you can cultivate the undying body in a short time. Demon Ancestor wasn't clear on how difficult it was to cultivate the undying body, but compared to the undying body of a life and death king, one could imagine its difficulty. It should be known that entering the realm of life and death was not an easy matter, as difficult as ascending to the heavens. In the history of True Spirit Continent, the highest number of life and death kings in 100 years was merely 14, and the lowest was merely 8. Therefore, even if there were shortcuts, it would be impossible for Yi Chun to cultivate the undying body in a short time. Even 5 or 10 years might not be enough. White rays of light interweaved into a thin defensive layer, isolating the berserk spatial power outside. Occasionally, the density of the spatial power would increase a bit, and the Undying Altar would tremble a bit. Otherwise, it wouldn't feel like it was shuttling through the void. Standing on the vast, Undying Altar, Yi Chun looked outside through the defensive layer. There were no objects in the outside world, only flowing colors. Because the colors were too dense, it was impossible to tell how many colors there were. Some that had been seen before, some that had not. These colors seemed to be liquid yet not liquid, gas yet not gas, solid yet not solid. They seemed to be very close, but they could not be touched at all. This is the power of space. Yi Chun suddenly thought of the void-shattering finger art. As a profound martial art, the void-shattering finger art required the space profound to activate, which was one of the most incredible profound out of all of the profound martial arts. The number of people who had mastered it could be counted on one hand. Therefore, even though he had obtained the third movement of the void-shattering finger art for many years, Yi Chun had never been able to make any progress, and had been stuck at the superficial level. Puff! After a moment of hesitation, Yi Chun flicked his finger. The invisible finger force passed through the defensive layer without any obstruction and came into contact with the power of space. A miraculous scene happened. Within the flowing space power, a spiral-shaped ripple appeared. It was about 10 meters long and 3 inches in diameter. Of course, this was just a visual observation. As for its true length and width, Yi Chun had no idea. He was currently sensing the connection between the space power and the void-shattering finger art. Space mentality. Seeing this scene, Murong Qingqing's beautiful eyes revealed an astonished expression. True Spirit Continent had a saying that time reigned supreme and space reigned supreme. The meaning of this saying was that time reigned supreme among all profound mysteries. If time didn't reign supreme, then space would reign supreme. The reason why Xianhou was so powerful was because she had grasped the space profound. Among life and death kings, her strength was second only to Su King, and she was equally famous as the Evil King and Dragon King. However, this was the ranking of True Spirit Continent. Outside of True Spirit Continent, there was still the boundless, boundless ocean. Nobody knew what kind of terrifying characters were there. In any case, all kings were apprehensive of the boundless ocean. Puff, puff, puff. Yichen repeatedly used the void-shattering finger art. The defensive layer of interweaving white light didn't obstruct the energy flowing out, allowing Yichen's finger force to have 100% effect on the space power. As the number of times increased, Yichen's comprehension of the space mentality deepened. Space was like a great furnace. Besides time, everything else was its fuel. Grasping the concept of space was like gradually understanding this great furnace. When the concept of space reached its limit, it would approach the essence of space and enter the realm of profound meaning. But the profound meaning of space was even more mysterious than the concept of space. The concept of space was to understand the great furnace, and the profound meaning of space was to grasp it. Grasping the great furnace was the same as grasping all living things. Faintly closing his eyes, Yichen extended his right hand, raised his index finger, and held his breath, seemingly condensing an incorporeal power. The undying altar shuttled back and forth at a rapid speed without any fluctuations. Standing on top of it, Yichen and Murong Qingsheng had different expressions. One was motionless like a statue, while the other was gazing at the other with an unfathomable black light flickering in her eyes. Buzz! All of a sudden, Yichen opened his eyes, and his index finger pointed out without any trace. Outside the defensive layer of the undying altar, a splash appeared on the space power. Then, a spiral-shaped ripple spread out at an extreme speed. 10 meters, 15 meters, 20 meters, 25 meters. This time, Yichen broke all the previous records. For the first time, the spiral-shaped ripple broke through 20 meters and reached 25 meters. Huff! Letting out a breath, Yichen felt very tired. This finger attack didn't consume a lot of Zhen Yuan, but the amount of essence, qi, and soul it consumed was beyond his imagination. If he used another finger attack, he might really fall to the ground. Void-shattering fingers' third movement. I've finally comprehended 10% of it. However, 10% of the void-shattering finger's power is even greater than the Sky Thunder Cut. The space mentality is definitely several times more powerful than most mentalities. Unfortunately, 2 fingers is my limit. Unless it's a life or death situation, I can only use 1 finger. If 1 finger couldn't kill someone, he could still escape. If 2 fingers couldn't kill someone, then he wouldn't even be able to run. Therefore, from the current situation, Void-Shattering Finger was a double-edged sword. If used well, it could become a life or death ace attack. If not used well, then he would lose his own life. Murong Qingsheng couldn't tell how powerful Void-Shattering Finger was. Time and space could never be judged by appearance. Although it looked ordinary, it was actually a fatal attack. However, Void-Shattering Finger, which was powered by the space mentality, shouldn't be too bad. It might be another powerful ace attack. Thunder Region. It was the region with the richest thunder yuan qi. It wasn't as big as Misty Snow Region and was considered medium in the southern sector. However, it was the strongest region in the southern sector and had the most powerful warriors and geniuses, as well as the most sections. Thunder Region had 4 great danger zones, and one of them was called Thunder Cry Grave. Thunder Cry Grave sounded like a graveyard, but it wasn't actually a graveyard as people understood it to be. From another perspective, it was a graveyard of thunder and lightning. Thunder Cry Grave was extremely vast, spanning 33,000 li from south to north and 28,000 li from east to west. Due to the abnormal magnetic field, the air and underground of Thunder Cry Grave was filled with lightning, visible to the naked eye. Therefore, it was called Thunder Cry Grave. Every year, many people would come to explore Thunder Cry Grave, and the majority of the explorers' physiques were inclined towards Thunder Attribute. Here, they could obtain Thunder Attribute herbs, ores, and treasures, or even comprehend the Thunder mentality. It was also a pretty good choice. Old 6, do you feel that the lightning around us has become even more berserk? At the edge of Thunder Cry Grave's core zone, an astral-reaching expert said to his companion, The middle-aged man called Old Six revealed an astonished expression. I thought I was the only one who had this feeling. Did you feel it too? That's right. In the past, the lightning's frequency wasn't this fast. I think we'd better leave this place. Thunder Cry Grave is known as a graveyard of thunder and lightning, but the number of people who died inside is also not small. And you're right. Let's leave. The two's figures flashed, urging their Zhen on and rapidly flying towards the periphery. Crackle, crackle, crackle. Crackle, crackle, crackle. As the two had expected, the lightning's frequency was getting higher and higher. In just a few blinks of an eye, the frequency had doubled. After a quarter of an hour, the entire area was shrouded in lightning. A glaring radiance burst out ferociously like a blazing white sun. Rumble. The ground within several hundred li suddenly shook. At the center of the lightning explosion, a huge object broke out of the ground and rushed into the sky. It was wrapped in endless lightning, dragging a lightning flame tail behind it. Look, there's a lightning ball shooting out. The abnormality could be seen from thousands of li away. When a huge object rushed into the sky, it looked like a lightning ball with lightning coiling around it. When the huge object reached a height of 10,000 meters, its power disappeared and it fell down. The lightning it brought along collided with other lightning bolts, creating layers of explosions. Finally, the huge object steadily landed on the flat ground, and the lightning was dissipating. Finally, when all the lightning had dissipated, the huge object could be seen clearly. It was a 400 meters wide and 100 meters tall, six-pillared altar. In the center of the altar stood two people, one male and one female. The male was dressed in blue and had a long sword hanging from his waist. He looked delicate and handsome. The female was dressed in a purple dress and had a light veil covering her face. Her black hair was like a waterfall, and her eyes were like cold stars. These two were indeed Yi Chun and Murong Qingqing. They had been brought out of the underground world by the undying altar and came to the surface world. However, they did not know where exactly they were. Pop! The white light interweaved into a defensive layer, and the two walked out. Swish! Suddenly, a bolt of lightning appeared beside them, striking the ground and cracking it. Murong Qingqing muttered, "If I'm not wrong, this should be the Thunder region. Only the Thunder region's Thunder Yuan Qi is this rich." Thunder region. Yi Chun smiled bitterly. The place of extreme negative energy was several million li away from the Thunder region. As for the strongest region in the southern sector, Yi Chun had long heard of it. To him, even if he did not come this time, he would come again in the future. So, it did not matter. The ground trembled slightly. Yi Chun turned around and saw the undying altar gradually sinking into the ground until it disappeared. Chapter 441. Yi Chun, you and I are both new to the Thunder region. Why don't we take a stroll around? Murong Qingqing also didn't have the intention to go back. As one of the top geniuses in South Ritter region, she always wished to look around and see how many powerful geniuses there were in this world. Staying in one place for too long would be detrimental to cultivation. It would be like looking at the sky from the bottom of a well. Yi Chun nodded. That's exactly what I was thinking. The two had the same destination, so they casually chose a direction. On the way, after some observation, the two found out that this region was one of the 4 great danger zones of the Thunder region, the Thunder Cry Tomb. Its danger was not inferior to the Blood Demon battlefield in the Star Lake. Of course, the danger of the Thunder Cry Tomb was only relative to people below the extreme astral reaching realm. Once one's battle power reached the extreme astral reaching realm, one could basically move unhindered in the Thunder Cry Tomb. When Murong Qingqing met Yi Chun, she already had the strength of the extreme astral reaching realm. Later on, she obtained the demonic evil stone and condensed her martial soul embryo, further increasing her battle power. Later on, she even transformed her martial soul embryo into a demonic soul embryo and was close to the critical point. She was only a step away from the true demonic soul. Her battle power was not inferior to ordinary sea of soul realm experts. If she cultivated the soul-extinguishing wave, she could almost rival Yi Chun. As for Yi Chun, even he himself didn't know how powerful he was. Sky Thunder Cut, Sword Steps, Martial Soul Embryo, 3 Great Attribute Sword Intense, Void Shattering Finger. Any one of them was enough to shock the world, not to mention the Undying Body Scroll he had just obtained. Exiting the Thundercry tomb without any danger, the two rushed toward the nearest city. 10 days later, the two arrived at the bustling Thunder Lake City. Thunder Lake City and Thunder Lake Sword City only differed by a single word. It was the only major city in the Thunder region, the Thunder Empire. Thunder region is worthy of being the strongest region in the southern sector. The average battle power of the young geniuses far surpasses that of South Ritter region. Morong Qingchang said with a sigh. Yi Chan said, humans are social animals, so they will always be affected by the environment. The martial culture in the Thunder region is undoubtedly stronger than the South Ritter region. Along the way, the two often saw geniuses who were about the same age as them. Because of Murong Qingqing's beauty, there were also young geniuses who would come over to talk to her. Not a single one of these young geniuses wasn't an astral-reaching expert. From their mouths, they learned that they were quite famous in a certain region. However, when asked about the whole Thunder region, they were all speechless. They said that without reaching late astral-reaching realm, there was simply no way to compete with them. Even if they reached late astral-reaching realm, they would only be at the bottom. This made Yi Chun and Murong Qingcheng rather speechless. It should be known that in the South Ritter region, being able to reach the astral-reaching realm under the age of 30 would be enough to make one famous in the whole region. But in this place, it was nothing. As one of the most important cities of the Thunder Empire, the Thunderpool City had an astonishing flow of people. Normally, the geniuses of the other countries in the Thunder region would use this place as a gathering point, and there was an endless stream of cultivators coming and going. The Storm Restaurant was one of the 3 biggest restaurants of the Thunderpool City. It had 5 floors, and each floor could accommodate a large number of customers. It was the favorite place for young geniuses and rich and powerful disciples. In the lobby of the 5th floor, for young geniuses were talking loudly. I just heard that there was a strange phenomenon in the Thundercry tomb. A several hundred meters wide lightning ball broke out of the ground and soared into the sky. Since the Thundercry tomb is one of the 4 dangerous places of the Thunder region, it also has some mysteries. Cough. We've come all the way to the Thunder Empire. This is not the time to talk about strange things. Let's talk about the martial tea gathering hosted by the Thunder Princess. This is the most important event for the young generation of the southern sector. It happens every 2 years. The last one was hosted by the Edict Prince, and this one is the Thunder Princess turn. You're right, let's talk about the martial tea gathering. In recent years, the martial tea gathering has become more and more influential. In the past, it was only attended by geniuses of our Thunder region and the neighboring regions. But, starting from the last one, it has already spread to the entire southern sector, including the regions closest to it. The geniuses of the southern sector all consider it an honor to participate. Of course, didn't you see who hosted the last 2 tea gatherings? The Edict Prince and the Thunder Princess are both leading figures of the southern sector, and their strength is unfathomable. Although they haven't reached the Sea of Soul Realm, they've both defeated Sea of Soul Realm experts. On the west side by the window, Yi Chun and Murong Qingcheng were listening to their conversation. Murong Qingcheng said, I've heard about the martial tea gathering. They're right. In recent years, the martial tea gathering has become more and more famous, especially since the last one hosted by the Edict Prince. It has become a palace where the top geniuses of the southern sector gather. And the Thunder Princess hosting this tea gathering is a genius on par with the Edict Prince. She's known as one of the top 5 geniuses of the southern sector. Yi Chen lightly drank a mouthful of wine. He had heard about the Thunder Princess from Senior Brother Wong of the Dragon God Celestial Palace. She had the Thunder Spirit Body, which allowed her to cultivate Thunder Jin Yuan with half the effort. She could comprehend Thunder Mentality or Thunder Profound several times faster than ordinary people. 1 year of cultivation was equivalent to several years of bitter cultivation for others. 2 years ago, the geniuses of our Thunder region were still the most impressive. I wonder what kind of geniuses will appear this time. The four seemed to be in high spirits, and their voices were getting louder and louder as they drank. Comparing the quantity and quality of the geniuses, of course, our Thunder region would be the best. However, the region where Edict Prince is from is not to be underestimated either. There are 2 or 3 other regions that are not at a disadvantage and are right behind the Thunder region. Other regions, such as Misty Snow region and Wavy Cloud region, are also capable of producing powerful geniuses. On the contrary, South River region is at the bottom as usual. Last time, there was only one Seekong Sheng. Although his strength is not bad, he can't be ranked at the top in the whole southern region. I really didn't expect him to be one of the top geniuses in South River region. Any top warrior from our Thunder region would be able to sweep across the whole South River region. Even you and me could be the king of the whole South River region. South River region is the last place, but that mountain region is not any better. A young man sitting near the four could not hold it in anymore. His face turned pale as he sneered. Nonsense! Do you think you can talk about all the geniuses in the world? Hearing him, one of them looked over with a cold expression and said casually, Please, Zhao Feng from the mountain region. Ha ha ha. Hearing him say that he was from the mountain region, the four started to laugh out loud. As far as I know, only the Cold Moon Spear and the Star Competition Mountain are a bit more powerful. Who are you, Zhao Feng? Don't come out and embarrass yourself. The four did not give Zhao Feng any face at all. You only talk about being powerful. Do you dare to fight me? Zhao Feng suddenly stood up and yelled. Why not? It is just that the blade is merciless. You deserve to be wounded by me. The young warrior in yellow did not even stand up as he said with a cold voice. What a great skill. Zhao Feng's weapon was an iron spear. Pouring his Zhen Yuan into it, the iron spear swept out horizontally. The spear light turned into a roaring, huge wolf, attacking toward his opponent. Break! The young man in yellow did not even take out his weapon. He made a grabbing gesture in the air with his right hand, and the huge wolf that was formed by the spear light was grabbed by the neck, shattering into pieces. Go back! With a twist of his right hand, the shattered spear light shot out at an even faster speed. Ding! Ding! Dang! Dang! Sparks flew everywhere as Zhao Feng was blown back while holding his iron spear. He spat out a mouthful of blood, crashing through the walls of the 5th floor before landing on the street outside. So weak. The young man in yellow curled his lips. Seeing this, some of the geniuses from the mountain region on the 5th floor lowered their heads. Zhao Feng was not a nameless brat in the mountain region. He was at least ranked in the top 15 or even top 10. Even he had been defeated, so it would be useless for them to go up. Plus, it seemed like the other had not even used 70 to 80% of his power. How could they fight back? Unfortunately, the more they acted like this, the more the young man in yellow and his companions looked down on them. They felt that they had a higher evaluation of the mountain region, so they started to laugh out loud. Someone next to him laughed. Luo Qiu, I haven't seen you for a couple of months, and your power has improved again. I think you will be able to show off a bit in this tea gathering. The person who had attacked was quite famous in the Thunder region. He had reached the peak level late astral reaching realm a year ago, and had formed his martial spirit 3 months ago. It was exactly because of this that Luo Qiu and his 3 companions had the right to be so arrogant and look down on the South River region and the mountain region. Luo Qiu said lightly, beating him is not worth mentioning. If I mention it, it would only be an insult to me. But I have to say something. People from the mountain region and the South River region should all go back now, in case they embarrass themselves in the tea gathering and lower the standard of the event. As he spoke, his eyes scanned around the 5th floor, his head slightly raised. The warriors from the mountain region were very frustrated, their faces turning red. It was their first time in the Thunder region, and they were planning to go to the tea gathering to see the level of the martial geniuses in the whole South region. But who knew that they would be defeated before the tea gathering even started. Let's go. Some of the warriors from the mountain region could not stand the atmosphere anymore, so they lowered their heads and left with their companions. Only a small part of them stayed behind. Yichen put down his wine cup and said to Murong Qingsheng, "Which one of us will do it?" It was not Yichen's style to stay low-key after being humiliated. Whether it was the South River region or the warriors from the South River region, they were all one. Murong Qingsheng was about to reply when she suddenly said, "It seems like we do not need to do it anymore. Gu Yuyun, will battle with you." Two young people walked up the stairs. The leading young lady was indeed the number one of the hidden dragon rank from the South River region, Gu Yuyun, a disciple of the floating mountain martial school and the descendant of the Stone King. Gu Yuyun had just arrived at the Wind and Rain restaurant when she heard Luo Qiu and his companions laughing at the South River region from the fourth floor, even asking them to leave the Thunder region. "So does a girl. Are you from the South River region or the mountain region?" Luo Qiu did not take Gu Yuyun seriously either. The young man standing right next to Gu Yuyun said, without thinking, "South River region. Ha, you guys come together. Saves me the trouble of taking care of you one by one." If he could kick all of the warriors from the South River region and the mountain region out of the Thunder region, it would definitely make Luo Qiu famous. He licked his lips, showing his arrogance. Chapter 442. 2 against 1. It is not a fair fight. I alone will be enough. Gu Yuyun could tell that Luo Qiu was not a normal warrior. If he was in the South River region, he would not be weaker than Yan Qihua or Li Daoxian. However, she was not the same as before. With the bloodline of the Stone King, her cultivation had increased at a tremendous speed, reaching the peak level late astral reaching realm in just 4 to 5 years. If it were other martial geniuses, they would not be able to make it this fast. Because of the bloodline of the Stone King, it would be the most stable for training. Even if they did not work hard, their growth would still be faster than normal people. Of course, once the potential of the bloodline was used up, it would not be this stable anymore. Therefore, it was not without reason that the bloodline of the king was so valued. Martial geniuses could die easily, and they might not be as good as they were when they were young. But the inheritor of the bloodline of the king would definitely reach a certain height if given enough time. The bloodline of the king was like a paved road. As long as one followed it, it would be enough. Take this. Holding her breath, Gu Yuyun extended her body, ignoring the 20 meters of distance between them. She appeared right in front of Luo Qiu, throwing out a fist that was shining with a yellow light. The corner of Luo Qiu's mouth curled up as he reached out his left hand casually. Dong! The two had hidden their power inside, not leaking out at all. But the second they clashed together, their power clashed with each other. The aftermath of the attack shook the entire building, as if it was going to explode at any second. All of the young warriors in the lobby hurried to activate their Zhenyuan, trying their best to protect the building. "Let's go out and fight." After her fist attack had failed, Gu Yuyun's body turned blurry as she flew out of the building within a second. She was so fast that most of the young warriors could not even see her clearly. They only knew that she was definitely not someone that Zhao Feng could compete with. Otherwise, she would not be able to compete with Luo Qiu. Luo Qiu was a bit surprised as he chased after her. Judging on movement, he was not weaker than Gu Yuyun at all. He said, "No wonder you are so confident. You do have some tricks up your sleeves, but it is still not enough." The two flew out of the building one after another, hovering in the air above the Thunderpool City. The rest of the young warriors were very interested in this battle, so they all came to the window seats and looked out. As for Yi Chun and Murong Qingsheng, they were already sitting by the window, so they could see everything by turning their heads. Boom! Bang, 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 bang. In the sky above Thunderpool City, the two of them fought fiercely. The shockwaves from their battle spread out in all directions, dyeing the sky red and yellow. Strong winds blew in all directions. Break! The red light on Luo Qiu's palm swirled and turned into a giant millstone. The millstone spun and smashed towards Gu Yuyun, who was dozens of meters away. Stone King Protective Fist. Gu Yuyun did not step back. She steadied her qi and blood, lowered her center of gravity, and poured out all of her Zhenyuan. She threw out a powerful punch. After throwing out a punch, Gu Yuyun's protective Zhenyuan layer thickened a little bit. The dark yellow light was like a small yellow sun, which was not blinding at all. Instead of being shocked, Luo Qiu laughed. His hands turned into claws and attacked towards Gu Yuyan. Every time his claws slashed out, a layer of the little yellow sun would be shaved off. It was obvious that Luo Qiu's claw art was much more powerful than his palm art. His extreme fire mentality also contained explosive power. Pap, pap, pap. Luo Qiu's claw speed was way too fast. After throwing out dozens of claws, Gu Yuyan had only thrown out dozens of punches. The burning flame was extremely condensed, looking like red lava. Each drop of lava would turn into a fireball in the air, exploding violently. Her protective Jin Yuan started to dim down, but Gu Yuyan's expression did not change at all. She used all of her power to defend while attacking back with steady power, giving people a feeling that she would not be shocked even if the sky fell down. Murong Qingcheng said, "She is indeed the descendant of the Stone King. Her training speed is extremely fast, and her understanding of the Stone King's martial art is also not the same as before. This Stone King protective fist art has already reached its extreme. I am afraid that with her power right now, she would at least be ranked in the top 5 of the whole South River region." The King bloodline is not just for show. Yi Chen could naturally tell how powerful Gu Yuyan was. When he was in the Hidden Dragon rank competition, Gu Yuyan's power was only around the top 10. If some of the young warriors who could not join the competition were added in, she would only be ranked in the top 15. However, after 4 to 5 years, Gu Yuyan had not stopped improving at all. It was not hard to tell that as she reached the astral reaching realm, the potential of the King bloodline had exploded. One day of cultivation would be equivalent to several days of hard work for others. In terms of training, even Yi Chen was far behind her. Thinking about that, Yi Chen could not help but think about the other top martial geniuses in the whole South River region. He wondered how powerful they were right now. Thinking about it, Xikong Sheng and Tuob Ku would not be slower than Gu Yuyan, since the former also had the King bloodline, and the latter seemed to have the King bloodline as well. Stone King Fury. Every time she was hit by a claw, Gu Yuyan's body would store up a rebounding force. This rebounding force was not released, but it was getting stronger and stronger. When the rebounding force reached its limit, Gu Yuyan groaned and threw a punch with enough power to shatter mountains and crack the earth. Boom! The explosive shockwave spread out in all directions. Luo Qiu had backed out for hundreds of meters under that punch, looking a bit messed up. "So, this is your ace attack." Waving his hand to shatter that thick attacking chi, Luo Qiu seemed to be thinking about something as he squinted his eyes. "Luo Qiu, what are you waiting for? Don't tell me that you cannot even beat her." Luo Qiu's friends were laughing, as if they knew that Luo Qiu's power was not just this. "What's the rush? I was just warming up." Luo Qiu did not seem to mind at all. Soon, he opened his eyes back to normal and said slowly, "With a martial genius like you in the South River region, it is not that bad. But I will not go easy on you anymore. This world is a world of power, and it has always been like this." Gu Yuyan said, "You can do whatever you want. I, Gu Yuyan, will take it on myself." "All right." Luo Qiu took a step forward as he raised his right hand into a claw. 5 beams of red light extended out from his fingers, looking like a massive red sharp claw. The red sharp claw tightened, and the front curled into a hook. It had changed from a casual mode to a battling mode, looking no different from a real sharp claw. Dark red claw. Shoo! Luo Qiu appeared in front of Gu Yuyan, his right hand waving out the red sharp claw. It tore down, leaving a burnt black claw mark in the air. Swoosh! Gu Yuyan's protective Jinyuan layer was shattered immediately. She could not even handle one claw attack. But Gu Yuyan was prepared for it. She performed the second ace attack of the Stone King body protective fist art. Stone King double attack. Her left hand turned into a fist, and her right hand turned into a palm. The fist power contained an intense, tightening power, while the palm power contained an unloading power. With one punch and one palm attack, Gu Yuyan managed to block out Luo Qiu's dark red claw attack. It was not over yet. The Stone King double attack did not only contain a fist attack and a palm attack, but also a combo attack. As soon as the dark red claw was blown away, Gu Yun's elbows attacked aggressively from the left and right. Crack! Luo Qiu, who was supposed to be the main attacker, had his protective Zhen Yuan layer broken by Gu Yun. It seemed like I have to get serious. Luo Qiu looked extremely serious. In terms of the same level of power, he had undoubtedly lost to Gu Yun. Although he did not want to admit it, there was no point in lying to himself. The good thing was that there was still a huge gap between him and his opponent, which was that he had already formed his martial spirit 3 months ago. With the help of his martial spirit, his battling power could still increase drastically. Back out. The burning fire element Zhen Yuan exploded. Luo Qiu did not take a single step back, but Gu Yun was blown away. Martial spirit. Gu Yun frowned heavily. In terms of training, she was extremely talented, but forming the martial spirit was a training of the soul and will. She was no different from most of the other martial geniuses. With the martial spirit, her battling power could be increased by at least 40 to 50%. I still have a long way to go before I can form my martial spirit. Even with the blood evil stone, it would not be enough. The martial spirit was not something that could be formed whenever one wanted to. One would have to reach the realm first. Once one reached the realm, there would be 2 choices. One would be to slowly accumulate the willpower, and the other would be to use the power of the outside to train it. Gu Yun's realm was not high enough yet. Luo Qiu's friends did not seem to expect that he had already formed his martial spirit. They all had their mouths wide open as they mumbled. This tea gathering. Luo Qiu's ambition is not small at all. Forming the martial spirit is a sign of progress. We are all not as good as him. Hee. We were indeed exaggerating before. But now, I am sure that Luo Qiu would be able to sweep the entire South River region all by himself. As they were chatting, Luo Qiu attacked again. 100 Crack Claw. It was a simple movement, but with the help of his martial spirit, it was extremely aggressive. His attacking power and speed had all reached a new peak. Gu Yun backed out again and again, unable to fight back at all. Right then, the space in front of Gu Yun started to vibrate. An invisible power field wrapped around the claw shadows, twisting them and shattering them. Who? Luo Qiu was shocked as he looked over to where Yi Chun and Murong Qingsheng were. Murong Qingsheng picked up a wine glass that was half filled with wine. She said lightly, "You said that there is no one in the South River region. I will sit here without moving. If you can get close to me, then you win." Murong Qingsheng, Yi Chun. Gu Yun had just noticed Murong Qingsheng and Yi Chun. It was not that she was not observant, but she was really attracted by Luo Qiu and his friends. Plus, there were a lot of young warriors on the 5th floor, and they were all about the same age. He is Yi Chun. The young man who came with Gu Yun was studying Yi Chun. In the South River region, Yi Chun was a legend, and the rumors about him had never stopped. All of the disciples from the powerful martial institutions had set Yi Chun as their goal. Of course, there were also a lot of people who doubted his power, thinking that he might not be as powerful as he used to be after all these years. There are 2 more from the South River region. Luo Qiu, leave them to us. Luo Qiu's friends attacked together, performing their top martial arts. Chin. That bright sword light shone all over the lobby as Yi Chun used his finger as a sword, waving it out casually. The next second, all of the windows on the 5th floor had been shattered, and the tables and chairs had all been blown away. The sharp sword aura had almost blinded everyone's eyes, and their souls were shaking. The 3 who were attacking even thought that they were being cut into pieces. Their confidence and aura had disappeared completely. Pooh! The 3 puked out blood as they were blown out of the 5th floor. Chapter 443. What? He beat the 3 of them with one sword attack? No, he did not even use his sword. He only used his finger sword. In the Grand Hall, the young elites from the Thunder Territory and the neighboring territories were all shocked. In their opinion, since these 3 were Luo Qiu's companions, their strength would definitely not be bad. Birds of feather flocked together. This sentence was applicable everywhere. Plus, that finger sword attack from Yi Chun was way too powerful. Although it was not aimed at them, they all felt like someone was pointing a sword at their forehead. Luo Qiu had a different opinion from the others. He knew clearly that without using his martial will, he would not be able to win against the three of them. Therefore, he knew how hard it would be to beat them with one finger sword attack. Was he really from the South Ritter region? Since when did such a powerful martial genius appear in the South Ritter region? Luo Qiu felt a bit dizzy as he stared at Yi Chun, who was still drinking. Right then, Yi Chun was like a great sword that had not been taken out of its scabbard yet. He did not dare to step forward, because once a sword artist's sword was taken out of its scabbard, there would be blood. It was just that he had already spoken ruthlessly earlier. If he were to leave with his tail between his legs, it would undoubtedly be extremely embarrassing for the Thunder region. He did not want to be criticized by the other geniuses of the Thunder region and be despised by them. Thus, he braced himself and continued to endure. Moving his gaze, Luo Qiu focused on Murong Qingsheng again. Facing the sword artist in blue, I do not have a high chance of winning. But facing her, I should have a higher chance of winning. Plus, I just need to get close to her. Luo Qiu did not lack confidence. He had not used all of his power during the battle with Gu Yuyin, so it should not be too hard for him to get close to Murong Qingsheng. Letting out a breath, Luo Qiu said with a loud voice, I admit that what I said before was a bit biased. There are still one or two powerful martial geniuses in the South Ritter region. But, lady, you are too arrogant. How hard can it be to get close to you? Let me show you. Shoo! His body flashed once, and 3 Luo Qius flew out from 3 different angles and in 3 different ways. Murong Qingsheng swirled the wine in her glass. The crystal-clear wine swirled in the glass, one round after another. When Luo Qiu was 20 meters away from her, she raised the glass with her left hand and poured the wine out. Rumble! The wine, which could be drunk in a single gulp, poured out in torrents, turning into crystal waves that slammed into the 3 Luo Qius. Luo Qiu sneered, and his Zhen Yuan erupted. Raging crimson fire waves clashed with the crystal waves, trying to evaporate the wine. However, the wine was not as simple as he thought. It was wrapped in a terrifying invisible force field, which made the wine look extremely heavy, as if it was made by the compressed water of a large river. With a poof, it pierced through the fire wave and hit Luo Qiu. Suck! Everyone gasped. Luo Qiu had been blown away by just a glass of wine. This girl's power seemed to be no weaker than the sword artist in blue. Was the South Ritter region really going to rise? Gu Yuyin had already returned to the lobby on the 5th floor. Seeing this scene, she thought to herself, Murong Qingsheng is Murong Qingsheng. I thought that my current strength has already surpassed her. Even Yan Qihua and Li Daoxian might not be stronger than me. It seems that I have been too optimistic. Second sister, are you okay? The young man who came with Gu Yuyin asked with concern. Gu Yuyin shook her head. I'm fine. I did not expect Murong Qingsheng to be this powerful. I think she is even more powerful than Yan Qihua and Li Daoxian. Most likely, unless Yan Qihua and Li Daoxian have both made a special breakthrough. But even if they did, they might not be able to beat Murong Qingsheng. The young man suddenly sighed. Our head brother has not been back for 4 years. I wonder how he is now, and how powerful he is now. Second sister, do you think that when our head brother comes back, he will beat Yi Chun? He said the last sentence in a very low voice. Obviously, he did not want Yi Chun to hear it. Gu Yin did not answer directly. The young man was Li Jie, a disciple from the Floating Mountain Martial School. He was ranked 10th in this year's Hidden Dragon rank. His talent and comprehensive ability were both very impressive. Otherwise, he would not have the right to join the tea gathering hosted by the Thunder Princess. Li Jie was very young, and because of that, he thought very highly of himself. He did not like the fact that his head brother was not as powerful as Yi Chun. However, only the people who had participated in that year's Hidden Dragon rank competition would know how powerful Yi Chun was. It was not just his power, but that kind of unfathomable power. From the beginning to the end, no one knew where his bottom line was. Just when you thought he had used all of his power, in the next battle, his battling power would increase to the next level, and his hidden ace attacks would be endless. As for her head brother, Sikong Sheng, Gu Yuyin still admired him a lot. In terms of talent, he had the bloodline of the Song King, which gave him a lot of potential. In terms of comprehensive ability, he could definitely be ranked in the top 3 in the whole South River region. Both his talent and comprehensive ability were among the top. In just a blink of an eye, for years had passed, and her head brother's growth was definitely shocking. It should be known that the bloodline of the king level would only get brighter and brighter until the bloodline's potential was used up. I don't know either, because they're no longer people that we can guess. Gu Yin said slowly. Li Jie was speechless. Was the gap really that big? They were all astral-reaching realm warriors, so why couldn't they guess? Plus, now there was also Murong Qingqing. For no reason at all, he started to worry about his head brother. Before, there was only one Yi Chun, and now there was also Murong Qingqing. It had turned into a situation of 3 stars competing for the limelight. A glass of wine had forced me to back off. Luo Chio's face started to burn, and his eyes started to turn red. It was not that he had not thought about what kind of trick Murong Qingqing would use to force him back off, but he had never expected it to be a glass of wine. Being forced back by a glass of wine in front of everyone, no matter how arrogant he was, it would still be very humiliating. Take my dark red claw. The martial spirit in between his eyebrows started to vibrate, and a light human shadow appeared on Luo Chio's body. It was the sign of him pushing his martial will to its limit. He yelled and raised his right hand high above his head. 5 beams of red light extended out, turning into dark red sharp claws, attacking towards Murong Qingqing. Crack! The claw light had not arrived yet, but the powerful pressure had already left 5 deep marks on the street. Right then, Luo Chio's battling power had been pushed to its peak. Sky Demon Palm Print. As Murong Qingqing waved her left hand in the air, a huge black palm print landed on the claw light. Boom! The claw light was shattered, and the huge palm print caused the gravity within hundreds of meters to disappear completely. Some of the buildings had only been scratched slightly, but the top half of them had already started to break down, floating in the air above the Thunderpool City. Dark red armor. Luo Chio's expression changed drastically as he crazily exploded his Zhen Yuan, forming a thick dark red armor outside his body. It covered his entire body, and even his eyes were covered with a layer of red Zhen Yuan crystals, shining with 2-foot-long red lights. However, the power gap between the two was too huge. Even with the protection of the Zhen Yuan armor, Luo Chio still could not handle a casual attack from Murong Qingqing. The armor was shattered inch by inch, and Luo Chio puked out a mouthful of blood before being blown away. So powerful! Since when did these 2 horrifying martial geniuses appear in the South River region? One of them had beaten 3 martial geniuses from the Thunder region with only 1 finger attack, and the other had blown away the powerful Luo Chio with ease. This kind of power would be shocking even in the Thunder region. With them participating in the tea gathering, even if the South River region might not be able to shock the world, they would at least be able to stabilize the situation. Calling these 2 the twin stars of the South River region would not be an exaggeration. Twin stars of the South River region. What a great title. If this spread out, the other martial geniuses from the South River region would be able to stand up straight. All of the young warriors in the lobby on the 5th floor started to discuss. They were very interested in Yi Chun and Murong Qingqing. The group of martial geniuses from the Thunder region were not as arrogant as before, since they knew that they would not be able to compete with Yi Chun and Murong Qingqing. If they were to be arrogant, they would only embarrass themselves, since they were not considered as powerful martial geniuses in the Thunder region. Yi Chun sat on the chair, shook his head, and said, "It seems like he has not given up yet. Let's end this battle with this attack." Murong Qingqing said. Boom! The red light exploded like fireworks as Luo Chio flew back. He did not care about the blood on the corner of his mouth as he said with a low voice, "If you can block out my last attack, then I, Luo Chio, will admit defeat. Make your move." Murong Qingqing looked very calm. Who? Just as Murong Qingqing finished her sentence, a wave of invisible heat spread out from Luo Chio's body. Under this heat, all the pedestrians and residents within miles felt like they were on fire. One after another, they ran out of the area, looking horrified. In front of their eyes, all the houses around them started to smoke, and tiny flames started to rise up bit by bit. Luochio is going to perform his profound sense martial art. On the street, Luochio's 3 friends did not return to the 5th floor of the Wind and Rain restaurant. They were too embarrassed to go back, so they had been watching the battle from below. "Great Sun Red God Claw," Luochio roared. The air around him twisted and cracked, and the water Yuan Qi was evaporated completely, making his silhouette blurry, like a reflection in the water that was being blown by the wind. As the air twisted even more and more, Luochio felt like there was a volcano hiding inside his body, a volcano that was about to erupt. The boiling heat gathered in his right hand from all his limbs and bones. His right hand was originally ordinary, but in the blink of an eye, it was completely wrapped up by the extremely condensed lava Jin Yuan. Boom! Throwing out a claw attack, the palm power ignited the fire Yuan Qi in front of him and burned all the other Yuan Qi. It was like a real volcano eruption. A lot of people suspected that this claw attack would completely destroy the Wind and Rain restaurant and the surrounding area, turning everyone into ashes. A black human figure appeared on Murong Qingqing's body. The horrifying demon intent spread out in all directions. Up in the sky and down on the ground, half of the people in the Thunder City had sensed this demon intent. They were all shocked, as they had never seen a martial intent like this before. The result was obvious. Luochio had lost. In terms of attacking power, Murong Qingqing had the extremely rare demon intent, which had reached the critical point. She was only one step away from forming a real demon soul. Even if Luochio performed a 20% profound sense martial art, he would not be able to threaten her at all. It came fast and went fast. Luochio had lost again. On top of a building nearby, a young man in red and a young man in yellow stood there quietly. The one on the left had a cold expression and a handsome face, while the one on the right was Huang Kaishan, who had lost to Yi Chun in the Blue Mountain Island. Just SOSO. Let's go. The young man in red turned around and left. Chapter 444. I did not expect to see the Redwater little man here. He did not join the last tea gathering because he thought that he was not powerful enough to shock the world. The tallest restaurant in the Thunderpool City was the 18-floored Treasure Palace, which was one of the top 3 restaurants just like the Wind Rain restaurant. On the 18th floor, a young man in plain clothes watched the battle outside the Wind Rain restaurant from dozens of miles away. The red-robed young man and Huang Kaishan did not escape his sight either. The pretty girl in green chuckled. "Head disciple, you should prepare to shock the world this time as well." The young man shook his head. "I am not powerful enough to shock the world." On the other hand, that Yi Chun and Murong Qingqing are very powerful. Perhaps this is not all of their power yet. "Head disciple, why do you have to look down on your own?" The girl in green was indeed Feng Yinrou's sister disciple, Qingzhu. And the head disciple she was talking about was naturally the head disciple of the Floating Snow Martial School, Ling Hanya. Right then, she made a face, not satisfied with her head disciple's attitude. Ling Hanya forced a smile. This little sister disciple of his always said whatever was on her mind. Frowning, the beautiful Feng Yinrou in white said, "Qingzhu, when you get to the tea gathering, do not speak without thinking. Everything should be based on facts." "Got it." Qingzhu stuck out her tongue. Standing up, Ling Hanya said to the two, "All right, we have rested in the Thunderpool City for 2 days. Let's get going. You two, I am Lu Ming from the Mountain Region, also known as the Flying Hand. This is my first time in the Thunder Region, and it is my honor to meet you two. I am Sun Peng from the Mountain Region. I would like to make friends with you two. You two are here for the tea gathering, right? How about we travel together?" In the lobby of the 5th floor, after Murong Qingqing had beaten Luochio, a lot of young warriors came to greet them. However, most of them were martial geniuses from the Mountain Region. The Mountain Region was very similar to the South Ritter region, having been weak for a long time. However, there had been a life and death realm warrior from the Mountain Region 200 years ago which was better than the South River region. As for the geniuses from other regions, they did not think that it was necessary to make friends with them, since they did not lack powerful martial geniuses in their own regions. After getting rid of these people, Yi Chun and the other three walked down the 5th floor and picked a VIP room on the 4th floor, not wanting to be disturbed. Inside the private room, the four sat facing each other. Gu Yin said, "I should have guessed that you guys would participate in this martial tea gathering. The Thunder Princess reputation is unprecedented. Almost every genius wants to get to know her." Yi Chun and Murong Qingsheng looked at each other. The two never expected that after leaving the underground world, they would directly appear in the Thunder region's Thunder Grave and hear the news about the martial tea gathering. Of course, even without the undying body and the underground world, they would most likely come after hearing that the martial tea gathering was about to begin. Yi Chun asked, "Are there many people from the South River region participating? You might not know this, but all of the rank 6 martial institutions are encouraging their disciples to join the tea gathering. In the past, the South River region had been weak for a long time and had never been able to rise up again. The biggest reason was that the circle was too small and the competition was not strong enough. So, having them join the tea gathering would allow them to see all of the martial geniuses in the whole South region. It would allow them to know how big the outside world is and how powerful the powerful martial geniuses are. Then, they would naturally train hard and try their best to stand out in the next tea gathering." Gu Yin explained. Yi Chun nodded. That was indeed true. Gu Yin said again, "Before me, Yin Qihua, Li Daoxian, and Lin Yin had all left. I estimate that there would be at least 20 people from the South River region participating in the tea gathering. My head disciple had participated in the last tea gathering, so he would definitely join again this time." Li Jie said suddenly. Yi Chun glanced at Li Jie. He had a lot of conflicts with the Floating Mountain Martial School. Although it had ended because of Long Biyun, the leader of the school, there was still a knot in their hearts. He understood the reason why Sikong Sheng had mentioned him. Plus, he also knew that it was impossible for Sikong Sheng to not have made a breakthrough in the past 4 years. He was afraid that his power would be way more powerful than Gu Yuyin's. Gu Yuyin looked at Yi Chun and Murong Qingsheng with a complicated expression. To be honest, it would be impossible for her not to feel scared about participating in this tea gathering. The South River region did not have any glorious image in the eyes of the other regions. In their eyes, the South River region was the epitome of weaklings, and there were no powerful martial geniuses at all. She was clear that with her own power, she would not be able to make any waves in the tea gathering. She would not even be qualified to serve as a foil. If she was provoked, she would not know what to do. The good thing was that Yi Chun and Murong Qingsheng had shown up. Yi Chun was a legend in the South River region. It was his first time participating in the Hidden Dragon rank competitions, but he had already overturned his head disciple Sikong Sheng's ruling position. In the past 4 years, the rumors about him had never stopped. Everyone was guessing what kind of realm he had reached, and whether or not he could lead everyone out of the South River region and compete with the geniuses from the other regions. Although a lot of people thought that the current Sikong Sheng should not be weaker than Yi Chun, it was just an assumption without any proof. If Yi Chun could maintain his power, the possibility of him beating Sikong Sheng again would be much higher than the possibility of Sikong Sheng overtaking him. And Murong Qingsheng, who was standing right next to Yi Chun, was the epitome of the most beautiful girl in the whole South River region. When people talked about her, they would definitely talk about her beauty. Her power came second, and Gu Yuyin thought that she was just SOSO. But now that she had met her again, she realized that she had left her far behind, reaching a realm that she could not even see. Even without Yi Chun, the head disciple Sikong Sheng's position would still be in danger, and Murong Qingsheng would definitely have the power to fight for the throne of the #1 young generation in the whole South River region. With the two of them appearing in the tea gathering, Gu Yuyun felt a lot more relieved. Facing some challenges, she would at least have that much more confidence. And this was the most complicated part. In the South River region, they were competitors, and her martial institution had conflicts with Yi Chun. They had never interacted with each other. She did not expect that once they were out of the South River region, Yichen would unknowingly hold up an umbrella for them, strengthening their own confidence. She did not know if it was funny or sad. Head disciple, I wonder how powerful you are this time. Gu Yian sighed and thought to herself. Time passed like water, and the sky started to turn dark. Yi Chun and the other three stayed in the wind and rain pavilion, preparing to rest for a couple of days before leaving. The night was pitch black, and the sky was dotted with stars. The bright moonlight shone into the bedroom through the window, dyeing the room in a soft white color. Sitting on the bed, Yi Chun activated the Undying Body Scroll in his mind and started to study it carefully. The Undying Body Scroll had 3 levels in total. He did not have much interest in the latter 2, but he could still complete the first level. So, the first level of blood-flesh healing is to increase the recovery speed of the body. Normally, warriors with light wounds would not need to be treated, as they would recover after a long time. Only some of the more serious wounds would require treatment. But once the first level of blood-flesh healing is mastered, the body's recovery speed would increase by hundreds of times, and it would be healed within a second. The more Yi Chun read, the more surprised he was. He did not expect the first level of the Undying Body Scroll to be so mysterious. Increasing the body's recovery speed was related to the mysteries of the human body. The human brain had the memory function, and so did the human body, which was the natural source of the body's recovery. Without the memory function, the human body would be completely crippled, and even a small wound would be enough to kill you. Whether it was healing or taking pellets, it would only increase the body's recovery speed. If you lost the body's recovery ability, it would be very difficult no matter how you try to heal it, and it might not even have the slightest effect. On the other hand, the blood-flesh healing realm was the same as the continuous healing process, but the effect was magnified by 10 or even 100 times. Calming himself down, Yi Chun continued to read. The training of the blood-flesh healing realm was not very difficult, but it was also very difficult. It was not difficult because the process was very simple. There was only one step, and that was to brand the physical body with the mental mark or the soul mark. If the mental mark was successfully branded, the blood-flesh healing realm would be 1/3 completed, and if the soul mark was successfully branded, it would be a great success. As for the difficulty, it was because it was very difficult to brand the mental mark and the soul mark on the human body. After all, the human body was not a treasure that could be branded at will. Moreover, the human body and the human soul were in the same body. It was so familiar that it could not be any worse. It was because of this familiarity that the difficulty increased by several times. It was like you could move your hands, but could you move your hair at will? No matter what, I should try to brand the mental mark first. When I'm more familiar with it, I will start to brand the soul mark. Yi Chun took a deep breath and carefully activated his mental power, branding the mental mark in his body. Fail. The human body was like an hourglass. The mental mark would disappear the moment it was branded. It could not stay for long. At most, it could only stay for a little longer. Try again. I should brand according to the human body's laws. There must be a way. Night. Yi Chun tried again and again. Fortunately, his soul source was very powerful. No matter how many times he activated his mental power, he would not feel exhausted. Moreover, his choice was quite correct. First, he branded the mental mark. Mental power was weaker than soul power, so he could try many times. If he switched to soul power, he might not be able to persist for a long time. And this time is a little bit effective. After countless experiments, Yi Chun finally succeeded. This time, it was not a complete mental mark. It was incomplete. Because other parts of the body had been lost, only a part of the mental mark was left in the heart. Of course, he also found that an incomplete mental mark would eventually disappear. But at this moment, the body's recovery ability in the heart was the strongest. He suspected that without any Zhen Yuan, it would not be a problem for him to pierce through the heart with a sword. It would be easy for him to repair it. This was a major breakthrough. Taking out a dagger, Yi Chun made a shocking move. He took off his shirt and lightly inserted the dagger into the heart without activating his Zhen Yuan. Blood slowly flowed. Yi Chun stabbed 3 inches in, only 1 step away from the heart. However, he did not dare to continue. He just wanted to test the recovery speed of the heart. In a blink of an eye, the blood had stopped. In 5 blinks of an eye, the flesh had started to heal. In 30 blinks of an eye, it was completely healed. Phew, this is too amazing. Without the secret cultivation method of the undying body, even if I knew how to brand the mental mark, I would not be able to succeed. Yichen revealed a smile. Chapter 445. The morning of the second day, the lobby of the 5th floor was bustling as usual. Many young warriors who were not in a hurry were chatting while drinking their morning tea. The topic of the morning was who was the strongest among the young generation. In the southern sector, the Thunder Princess, Edict Prince, and Astral Spirit's son are the leaders. Although the other 2 of the top 5 geniuses are as famous as them, their comprehensive power is still a bit weaker. You are right. But who do you think is the strongest among the 3? That is hard to say. I personally prefer the Thunder Princess. In recent years, she has been the most famous. Her comprehensive ability and talent are both exceptional. Edict Prince and Astral Spirit's son are a bit less famous. Fame is not the standard of power. I admit that the Thunder Princess is very powerful, ridiculously so, but there is no way to deny that she is in the most powerful region of the South, the Thunder region. Therefore, she is the most famous. The Edict Prince was famous before the Thunder Princess. 1 year ago, the mysterious girl who suddenly appeared next to him was also very powerful. She was at least in the top 20 of the southern sector. From this, it is easy to see how powerful the Edict Prince is. The mysterious girl and the Edict Prince are inseparable. I heard that she is extremely beautiful, but she never talks in front of people. A young warrior seemed to know some inside information. Hearing everyone's words, Yi Chun, who was drinking his morning tea, smiled. It was useless to guess who was strong and who was weak. For geniuses, 1 or 2 years could change a lot of things. Once they had a breakthrough, their power would improve by leaps and bounds. This was the most interesting part of the competition between geniuses. No one knew who was stronger. Everyone had confidence in themselves and thought that they had improved a lot, which was enough to beat everyone else. Murong Qingxing is still comprehending the soul extinguishing wave. Together with the profound martial skills of the sky flying demon martial school, her power should be able to skyrocket in the future. The soul extinguishing wave was not a normal low-rank, profound martial skill. It was a horrifying killing attack that targeted the soul. Without exaggeration, if she could comprehend the soul extinguishing wave to a certain level, Murong Qingxing would definitely be able to defeat those who were stronger than her in terms of comprehensive power. As for me, I will still focus on the breakthrough of the Green Lotus Sword spell. The 9th movement of the Green Lotus Sword art will be second, and then the Undying Body. From the 13th realm to the 14th realm of the Green Lotus Sword spell, there were 3 breakthroughs that needed to be made. When he was in the Extremine region, Yichen had already made 1 breakthrough. Now, the second breakthrough had also started to loosen. Once the second breakthrough was made, he would not be too far away from the 14th realm. Once the Green Lotus Sword spell reached the 14th realm, his Zhen Yuan would definitely be a lot purer, and the 9 Green Lotus Sword Qi would merge into 1 Lotus Heart Sword Qi. Then, his battle power would increase drastically. Next will be the 9th movement of the Green Lotus Sword spell. Originally, he thought that the 9th movement would be just as powerful as the Sky Thunder Cut, but now he realized that he was wrong. The 9th movement would definitely be a lot more powerful than the Sky Thunder Cut. Otherwise, he would have already mastered it a few days ago. However, the potential of the Sky Thunder Cut was not limited to just this, because the current Sky Thunder Cut had only combined 8 movements of the Sky Cloud Sword art. As for the Undying Body, Yi Chun did not expect to succeed in a short period of time. He could not even leave a mental imprint on his body, not to mention a soul imprint. However, it did not mean that the Undying Body would be useless for the time being. If he was lucky, he would be able to leave a mental imprint on his heart 3 out of 10 times. In this way, his heart would no longer be a fatal wound. Besides these 3 aspects, Yi Chun was also training the Void-Shattering Finger. Although he could not escape into the surreal space, the training of the void-shattering finger would be very slow. However, steady progress was the way of a king. I wonder how strong Thunder Princess, Edict Prince, and that Astral Spirit Son are. I'm really looking forward to it. In truth, Yi Chen did not care too much about fame. He was looking forward to seeing someone in the younger generation who could fight him with all his strength. A crazy battle, a battle to his limits, a battle to his heart's content. Although he could also fight Sea of Soul Realm experts with all his strength, it could not compare to the passion of fighting with the younger generation. At this moment, someone suddenly brought the topic to Yi Chen. What do you guys think his strength can rank in the southern sector? He's very strong. I can't see through him at all. Indeed, I reckon that top 20 is very likely. Top 20? Isn't that too high of an estimate? Apart from the 5 great geniuses, there are still a few geniuses in Thunder region chasing after Thunder Princess. The regions of Edict Prince and Astral Spirit Son also have a lot of powerful geniuses. Moreover, these 2 tea gatherings will not only have geniuses from the southern sector, but also the neighboring regions. Top 20 is already the peak level. I don't think it's too high of an estimate. Yesterday, the might of his sword finger still makes my heart palpitate. Don't you guys feel it? Everyone turned silent. How could they forget the matter of Yi Chen defeating the 3 geniuses of Thunder region? At that moment, it was the first time they had felt such a sharp sword aura, and even their souls were trembling. This martial tea gathering might create a golden age. Someone broke the silence. The night arrived once again, and lightning flickered in the sky from time to time. In an inconspicuous alley, in an inconspicuous courtyard, 2 mysterious people were conversing. The one on the left was a skinny middle-aged man wearing a dark, colorful robe. His face was purple, as if he had been poisoned. His left hand was playing with a black spider, and his slightly narrowed eyes occasionally emitted a purple cold light. The one on the right was wearing a bamboo hat and hemp clothes. He was sitting there, and if one did not look carefully, one would not be able to sense his existence. He was easily ignored, like a poisonous snake in the grass, waiting for an opportunity to strike. 5 poison. I didn't expect you to have already entered the Sea of Soul Realm. Relying on your poison arts alone, I'm afraid there are no Soul Realm experts that can do anything to you. A hoarse voice came from the hemp garb man. The colorful-robed, middle-aged man chuckled. Elder Rain, that kid is not simple. I saw with my own eyes that he was evenly matched with the supreme elder of the Sunder Soul sect, Ghost Moon. It's a pity that my poison arts clashed with my body, or else I would have killed him. Are you sure you can kill him now? In a head-on battle, not 100%. If I'm not wrong, that kid has something you want, the hemp garb man said. The multicolor robe man licked his lips, right? He was also one of the people searching for the secret of the undying body. However, due to his special identity, he didn't appear openly with the others, but acted in the dark. That day, he saw everything that happened in the Stoneman Array. He thought that the person who disappeared would appear in a few days, but who knew that there would be no result after a month. Later on, he heard that the tea gathering was about to begin, so he decided to wait for Yi Chen in Thunderpool City. If Yi Chen came out, he would probably participate in the tea gathering, and Thunderpool City was the only way. If Yi Chen didn't appear, then it would be a waste of time. He didn't expect that Yi Chen would appear in Thunderpool City as he had expected. He had a premonition that Yi Chen had obtained the undying body, and he was determined to obtain it. With the undying body, his poison Zhen Yuan wouldn't harm his body, and he could use his poison arts without restraint. As for Elder Rain, he had met it by chance. He didn't tell him about the undying body. He, the 5 poison ghost general, wouldn't trust anyone. Let's do it. I really want to see how far your poison arts have progressed. The linen-robed man didn't ask anymore. He will. Tonight will be the day he dies. Taking a deep breath, the 5 poison ghost general spread out his right hand, and purple Zhen Yuan gushed out, condensing into a huge snake head. The snake head was vivid and lifelike, without a trace of falsehood. Fine purple scales were closely arranged, and the snake eyes were cold and emotionless. Hiss! A hissing sound was heard as the snake head opened its mouth, letting out a strand of purple smoke. It didn't have any impurities and was as dense as water. It stretched longer and longer in the air, becoming thinner and thinner. Eventually, it reached a colorless level and floated out of the window, over the wall, and into the storm tower miles away. At night, the storm tower was still bustling with people coming and going. No one had noticed that a strand of deadly poison gas had entered through the door and climbed up the stairs. Second floor, third floor, fourth floor, and the west corridor of the fourth floor. After swaying outside for a while, the poisonous gas seemed to have found a gap, which was a crack in the corner of the wall. Inside the guest room, the poisonous gas got in, but didn't corrode anything. It didn't make any sound either. Silently, the poisonous gas floated into the bedroom, and a smaller strand of it merged into the tea on the table next to the bed. Out of 10 times, I've already left a spiritual mark on the heart. Once the success rate reaches 100%, I will be able to spread it to other places. Letting out a breath, Yi-chun reached out his hand to pick up the teacup on the table. Bringing the teacup to his mouth, Yi-chun frowned. Pooh! With a shake of his wrist, the tea splashed onto the ground, and a purple smoke rose up. Poison? When did I poison it? Yi-chun held his breath. No, it's a poisonous gas. Chin. Raising his right index and middle fingers, Yi-chun pointed at the void in front of him, and a destructive sword intent shot out along with a sharp sword light. Swoosh! A purple mist exploded, and the poisonous gas spread out. Huh! With a cold snort, Yi-chun's forehead swelled, and a circle of sword intent halo spread out, isolating the poisonous gas outside and dispersing it quickly. In the courtyard of the alley, an astonished expression flickered on the ghost warrior's face. What's wrong? The hemp-robed man asked. This kid is more troublesome than I thought. He even sensed my heartless poison chi. Damn it, how could he be so cautious? Even when cultivating, he maintained his peak state. This sword intent can actually restrain my poisonous gas. The ghost warrior was extremely shocked. As the head of the 108 ghost warriors of the Nine Ghost cult, his reputation was not undeserved. Before he had reached the Sea of Souls realm, the poison-type Jinyuan he emitted could already corrode most of the Jinyuan, killing people without a trace. After becoming a Sea of Souls realm expert, the power of his poison-type Jinyuan would be several times stronger than before. Dealing with an astral-reaching realm expert would be a piece of cake for him, since it was not a direct confrontation, and the winner would not be decided by offense or defense. Regardless, Yi-chun's Jinyuan was indeed at the astral-reaching realm, while his Jinyuan was at the Sea of Souls realm. Chapter 446. Hearing his words, the linen-robed man said, Sword artists have the sharpest perception. If it didn't work the first time, I'm afraid it won't work in the future. But you don't have to target him. Your poison isn't just for killing. You mean that woman? The ghost warrior guessed the meaning of the linen-robed man's words. The linen-robed man didn't reply. You're right. There's no need to target that kid. As long as I can poison his friend, he'll have no choice but to come and beg me. The ghost warrior closed his eyes and attached his soul power to the heartless poison chi, urging it to float toward the wind-rain building for the second time. The poison chi was formless and colorless, and its density was even lower than air. Moreover, the way it floated was very strange, as if it was using the air as a channel. Without carefully scanning with soul power, one wouldn't be able to discover the deadly poison chi in the air. The heartless poison chi appeared in Murong Qingqing's bedroom and enveloped her. Murong Qingqing's closed eyes suddenly opened, and a black light flickered in her pupils. She discovered a wisp of purple in the air, one that couldn't be seen by the naked eye. God knows how she saw it, but it was something that even Yi-chun couldn't see. Reaching out her right hand, Murong Qingqing shrunk in the air. The next moment, the heartless poison chi curled up involuntarily and was enveloped by an invisible force field. Because of the increase in density, the poison chi's color had become very rich. Poison chi. Someone wants to ambush me. The Zhenyuan in the sky demon force field was corroded. Murong Qingqing's brows creased, and her deep gaze traced the source of the poison chi, trying to find the culprit. However, just as her gaze reached the outside of the wind-rain building, the ribbon-like poison chi dissipated. Pop! Pop! Several people nearby fell down without anyone noticing, immediately poisoned to death. Soon after, the residents in the surrounding buildings also fell down. By the time someone noticed, within a radius of several thousand meters, apart from the powerful clasping yuan and astral-reaching experts, not even a chicken or a dog was spared. It should be known that this was only a wisp of poison chi, but it was diluted by poison element Zhen Yuan. After spreading out, it could still kill the majority of people within a radius of several thousand meters. Its toxicity was simply unimaginable, more poisonous than any poison on the market. We've been discovered again. 5 Poison Ghost General's face was burning. The first time he attacked Yi Chun, he had failed. The second time he attacked Murong Qingcheng, he had also failed. This could no longer be described as embarrassment, but shame. Damn it! He was a Sea of Soul Realm expert proficient in poison arts, yet he had been defeated by 2 astral-reaching experts. Even without the Ghost General 5 Poisons reminder, the man in linen had already sensed that many people had died nearby. The deaths meant that the Ghost General 5 Poison had lost control of the poisonous gas or dispersed it automatically. Therefore, the possibility of success was negligible. After all, if he succeeded, there was no need for the Ghost General 5 Poison to kill so many people and bring trouble upon himself. We can't stay here for long. Let's leave first, the linen-clothed man said calmly. The 2 of them hurriedly left the courtyard and disappeared from the area. Creak! The door to Murong Qingqing's room was pushed open, and Yichen walked in and said, "Someone seems to be targeting me. Are you all right?" After being attacked by the poisonous gas, Yichun released his soul power, radiating in all directions. However, before he could find the attacker, something happened to Murong Qingcheng, and the people nearby also started dying one after another. This poison is very powerful. Murong Qingcheng raised her right hand in the void, and a twisting force field appeared. The purple poisonous gas squirmed like purple liquid, condensing into a sphere. Yichun sized up the poisonous gas and said, "The attacker should be an expert proficient in poison arts. Moreover, the poisonous gas contains soul power, which is hard to detect." Sea of Soul Realm Expert. Murong Qingqing's brows creased. Only Sea of Soul Realm experts could use soul power. Yichun faintly nodded. The attacker was certainly a Sea of Soul Realm expert. Why would they want to attack us? I don't have any clues, but I can think of one person. The head of the 108 Ghost Generals of 9 Ghost Cult, the 5 Poison Ghost General. It's said that the poison he releases is enough to kill thousands of people. Of course, I'm only thinking of him, but I don't have any proof yet. The southern sector is boundless, and he is not the only one proficient in poison arts. Perhaps there is someone else. Yichen didn't remember directly offending any poison arts expert, so he thought of the 5 Poison Ghost General of 9 Ghost Cult. Since Murong Qingqing was fine, Yichun bid farewell and returned to his room. The night passed without any words. The next day, the 4 set out together, heading north. The sky was clear, and white clouds could be seen everywhere. Below them was a vast plain, and on the plain stood a few steep peaks. Swish! A huge black shadow flashed past the left side of the mountain. Then 2 more black shadows shot out from the other side. The mountain shook a couple of times. First, the left side of the mountain that was grazed instantly shattered into a semicircle, as if it had been bitten. Then 2 semicircles appeared on the right side as well, making the whole mountain look like a broken apple that had been bitten a couple of times. In the whole southern sector, perhaps only our beast controlling martial school can travel this easily. A voice came from one of the black shadows chasing them. The speaker was a teenager in brown robes. He had thick eyebrows and tiger-like eyes, and his bones were thick and bulky. The black shadow under him was a huge black eagle, which was more than 10 meters long, and its wingspan was almost 20 meters. It was indeed a top-rank 8 demonic beast, the Black Wind Eagle. The black-winged eagle's battling power was not bad, but its most precious part was its speed, which could reach 7 times the speed of sound in a split second. On a black-winged condor next to him, a beautiful woman chuckled and said, "Second brother, you've been very happy since yesterday. Are you going to meet your dream lover?" The brown-robed teenager blushed. "Don't make fun of me. I like her, but she might not like me. It would be great if I had the strength of head brother." On the back of the black-winged condor, a handsome young man in cyan clothes stood with his hands behind his back. Although the gale was blocked out by Zhen Yuan, there was still a trace of air current that managed to seep in, making his long black hair dance in the air, making him look carefree and unrestrained. Hearing the voice of the brown-robed young man using Zhen Yuan, he curled his lips and said in a domineering tone, "Second junior brother, if I were you, I would confess to her directly. It's better for men to be a bit more domineering. Unfortunately, apart from the Thunder Princess, no one has caught my eye yet. Otherwise, I would have said goodbye to being single long ago." The beautiful lady covered her mouth and laughed. "Look, even head brother is supporting you." Scratching his head, the brown-robed teenager's face became even redder. "Shoo! Shoo! Shoo!" The three rode the black-winged eagle and flew straight ahead, leaving a black trail behind them. The speed of the black-winged condor was very fast, overtaking one person after another. When it overtook the 4 people who were lined up side by side, the handsome young man subconsciously glanced at it. With this glance, he could no longer look away. Even when the black-winged condor overtook the 4 people, he was busy looking back and intentionally slowed down the black-winged condor's speed. In his sight, the 4 people were 2 men and 2 women. The young man on the left looked ordinary, and his aura was also ordinary. There was nothing special about him. The young man on the right was a beautiful lady with a wonderful figure. No matter where she went, she would be a beauty. However, the handsome teenager had seen many beauties of this level, so he did not pay much attention to her. The one worth his attention was the young man in blue. He had a long sword on his waist, and his face was delicate and handsome. Although his eyes were very gentle, the handsome teenager could feel a sharp will in them. If the young man in blue made him take a few more glances, then the lady in purple next to him made him unable to take his eyes off her. There was actually a beauty that could compete with the Thunder Princess in this world. Be it appearance or temperament, they were all at the level of devastation. Even though the handsome teenager was used to seeing beauties in the world, he still could not help but feel his heart beat faster. Swoosh! The black-winged condor drew an arc in the air and blocked the 4 of them. "Eldest senior brother, what's wrong?" The beautiful lady and the young man in brown were puzzled, so they turned around as well. Seeing that someone was blocking their way, the 4 of them immediately stopped. It was Yi Chun and the other 3. "The 4 of you, I am Mo Xiang of the Imperial Bee School." The handsome teenager jumped off the black-winged condor and cupped his fists. Yi Chun asked, "What's the matter?" Mo Xiang smiled. "It's fate that we met. I'm guessing that you guys are going to the Thunder City, and we're going there as well. Why don't we travel together? There are too many things that happen to us. It might not be fate," Yi Chun said lightly. He, Mo Xiang, did not care. He looked at Murong Qingsheng and said, "I wonder what your name is. I hope you can tell me." Murong Qingsheng was slightly stunned, then said, "Since you care so much about fate, then let's see what it is." How could Gu Yiyin not see that Mo Xiang had been charmed by Murong Qingsheng? She found it funny. "You are right, lady, but I still believe that we are fated. See you in the Thunder City." Mo Xiang was not angry at being rejected. He knew that he had to know when to advance and when to retreat. If the first impression was bad, he would have to spend more effort to make up for it. Jumping on the black-winged condor, Mo Xiang turned around. "The Thunder City is not as peaceful as you think. If you have any trouble, just tell me my name. See you." Shoo! After that, he left on the black-winged condor without looking back. The confused, beautiful lady and the young man in brown smiled bitterly and chased after him on the black-winged condor. After the 3 of them left, Gu Yiyin said, "Prince Imperial Beast Mo Xiang, the eldest disciple of the 5th-rank school, the Imperial Bee School. He is a genius second only to the Thunder Princess in the Thunder region. His strength is probably in the top 10 of the young generation in the southern sector. I didn't expect to meet him here. Prince Imperial Beast Mo Xiang. Yichen took back his sight. He could feel that the latter was very powerful, and his aura was very pure. From this, he could tell that the latter's Zhen Yuan purity had also reached a very high level. In Yichen's eyes, he was the strongest young man besides Morong Qingsheng. Let's go. The Thunder City was full of young experts, and the group had already prepared themselves mentally. If a Prince Imperial Beast Mo Xiang could already shock them, then wouldn't they be shocked to death in the Thunder City? Mo Xiang's incident was soon forgotten as a small interlude, and they rushed towards the Thunder City. Chapter 447. The closer they got to Thunder City, the more young geniuses the four saw. Among them, there was no lack of top-ranked geniuses. Each and every one of these geniuses had a unique temperament. Some had dignified appearances, some had elegant faces, some were handsome, and some were incomparably beautiful. All of them were dragons and phoenixes among men, dominating their respective territories. Of course, in Thunder City, even a dragon would have to coil up, and even a tiger would have to crouch down. Everyone knew that Thunder City was not like other places. It was a place where crouching tigers and hidden dragons gathered. Apart from the Thunder Princess and a few others, no one dared to be arrogant. Even if there were people who dared to be arrogant, they were already in the past. Thunder City, I want to see what kind of geniuses there are. This time, I must amaze the world with a single brilliant feat. In my opinion, those famous geniuses are not necessarily stronger than me. Along the way, Yi Chun and the other three heard such voices more than once. While laughing inwardly, they also began to feel the competitive atmosphere. Thunder City was the capital of Thunder Empire, as well as the #1 city of Southern Sector and one of the top 10 cities of true Spirit Continent. It was known as the Thunder Palace in the sky and the Thunder Capital on the ground. The vastness of Thunder City was hard to describe with words. Standing dozens of li away, Yi Chun and the other three could only see a black line stretching for an unknown length. This black line was the city wall of Thunder City. Inside the city wall, the silhouettes of buildings rose and fell one after another. Even before approaching, an ancient and majestic aura assaulted their faces, making it hard for them to breathe. Yi Chun remembered that when he first entered Martial City, he was also shocked. However, comparing Martial City to Thunder City was like comparing a small cottage to a luxurious mansion. Be it scale, silhouette, or grandeur, they were not on the same level. It was hard to imagine how many years this city had taken to build. This was an ancient city that had stood for several tens of thousands of years. It was the #1 city of Southern Sector and also one of the top 10 cities of true Spirit Continent. As they approached, the silhouette of Thunder City became more and more distinct. The majestic ancient aura seemed to cause the air to stagnate. Seeing this ancient and huge city, every newcomer couldn't help but quiet down, fearing that their actions would attract some unknown attention. Thunder City. 2 ancient characters were engraved on the city wall. The character Thunder was like a bolt of lightning, incomparably tyrannical, while the character Capital gave people a sense of security. What a great Thunder City! Under the city gate, Yi Chun raised his head and said softly. Upon entering the Thunder City, the aura of the ancient city underwent a slight change. Amidst the ancient and boundless aura, one could feel a resplendent and flourishing aura that hadn't changed for thousands of years. It was as though even the passage of time wouldn't cause it to lose its color. Even now, it was still the most flourishing city in the Thunder City. On the street that was as wide as a square, there was an endless stream of horses and carriages and the hubbub of people. As far as the eye could see, a dense mass of people covered every inch of the street. The towering shops and restaurants on both sides of the street were like the dam of the river, encircling the torrent of people inside. Almost every 10 people, there was a young man. Every 10 young men, there was a genius. Every 10 geniuses, there was an outstanding talent. Perhaps it was because of the abundant dragon fountain chi, but Yi Chun seemed to be able to hear countless dragon roars. Of course, these faintly discernible dragon roars weren't the real deal. If one had to describe them, they were mostly roars of beasts, which could only be counted as the roars of flood dragons. In the sky above the Thunder City, the air currents were surging and the clouds were constantly changing. Looking carefully, one could make out many dragon-shaped air currents. Finally, the biennial martial tea gathering has arrived. I, Huang Yuan, will definitely shine. At the very least, I will let others know my name. Some of the young men who had just walked out of their homes felt their blood boiling, their eyes shining brightly. This time, the number of young talents participating in the martial tea gathering is the highest. If you want people to remember your name, you won't be able to do it without one or two unique skills. Brother Huang, you better be mentally prepared, in case the gap is too big and you can't handle the pressure. A young man who had some experience reminded him. There were countless restaurants in the Thunder City. At the first crossroad, there was a luxurious restaurant. Yi Chun and the other three walked in. Innkeeper, give us 4 guest rooms. The manager glanced at the 4 and said with an apologetic expression, I'm sorry, our restaurant is full. To be exact, it was full 3 days ago. The 4 were helpless and could only choose another restaurant. The result was the same as before. All the restaurants that looked more luxurious were full, and the slightly inferior ones couldn't even find a single empty room. At this time, Guyin said to Yi Chun and Murong Qingsheng, the martial tea gathering is around the corner, and there must be a lot of people in the Thunder City. With the 4 of us together, it will be hard to find a restaurant with 4 empty rooms. Why don't we split up? That way, the success rate will be increased by half. Yi Chun nodded. She was right. It would be easier for 2 people to find a restaurant. Moreover, he and Gu Yiyin weren't that close, so it was time for them to split up. Finally, in a relatively remote area of Thunder City, the 2 of them finally found a medium-sized restaurant. There were still 3 empty rooms in the restaurant. Normally, a restaurant like this would have 30% of its customers. But today, the entire restaurant was filled with people, and the atmosphere was extremely lively. 2 guests, this way please. The waiter walked in front of them. On the 3rd floor, Yi Chun chose a room near the outside, while Murong Qingqing's room was in the corridor. The room was spacious and clean. It had a bedroom, a living room, and a bathroom. The floor was covered with a thick carpet, and the color was elegant. After staying in the room for a while, the sky gradually darkened. Yi Chun and Murong Qingsheng went downstairs and arrived at the lobby of the 2nd floor. The lobby of the 2nd floor was quite lively, and most of them were young men and women. Did you guys hear? A powerful genius appeared in the floating light region where the Edict Prince is from. He condensed a true martial soul at such a young age and defeated the former number 2 genius of the Gold Sand region. His fame is only below that of the Edict Prince. Yesterday, he even defeated dozens of young geniuses in the Western martial arena without a single loss. The number 2 genius of the floating light region is called Wan Zhuoming, right? Wan Zhuoming's strength is not to be underestimated. This person actually defeated him. This martial tea gathering is getting more and more interesting. Isn't that so? In recent years, powerful geniuses have appeared one after another, suppressing the old top geniuses. Who knows, a true dragon-grade genius who can threaten the Edict Prince and the Thunder Princess might appear. The possibility is very small. Other geniuses might be able to surpass them, but the Edict Prince and the other true dragon-grade geniuses have already reached the peak. Astral reaching realm is impossible to threaten them. The martial tea gathering hasn't started yet. How do you know it's impossible? Hee, if there is such a genius, I'll eat this table. I don't believe it. I'll save this table for you. Fine, but what if there isn't one? Then I'll eat this table as well. Hearing the 2's conversation, the surrounding people were quite interested. However, the majority of them supported the latter. After all, true dragon-grade geniuses were not cabbages that could be found anywhere. The young genius who was about to save the table sneered and inwardly thought, if there isn't a high possibility, why would I say it? My master is an astrology master. He came here 3 days ago and said that the sky above Thunder City was in chaos. Apart from the 3 true dragons that had already matured, there were also many false dragons. More importantly, there wasn't a single true dragon in the southern region. This was something that would never happen during the gathering of geniuses in the past. Therefore, the situation of 3 dragons contending for hegemony couldn't possibly exist this time. The southern region would be dominated by an even more powerful true dragon. He was quite clear that the true dragon and false dragon mentioned by his master was a kind of invisible and intangible phenomenon. Only people proficient in geomancy and astrology could sense them. Of course, life and death kings could also see them. Moreover, life and death kings could even influence the geomancy and astrology. Little guy, just wait to eat the table. But I should go somewhere else. How can a table be enough for one person? At least a bit more. With mischievous thoughts in his mind, the young man quietly left the restaurant. Watching the young man leave, Yichen chuckled, then found an empty table with Murong Qingsheng and sat down. In another restaurant not far from this one. If I didn't come out, I wouldn't have known. Only after coming out did I realize that there are so many geniuses in the world. We're no different from frogs at the bottom of a well. Li Daoxian drank a mouthful of wine and sighed emotionally. Yanqi was said, "What? Are you scared?" Li Daoxian shook his head. "Not scared, but excited. That's more like you." The relationship between Yin Qihua and Li Daoxian was very strange. They were friends, but also rivals. Before Yi Chan appeared, they had been fighting openly and secretly for the first place of the Hidden Dragon list. Even after Yi Chan appeared, their relationship didn't change. Putting down the wine cup, Li Daoxian looked out the window and said, "I wonder where they are." He was talking about Sikong Sheng and Yi Chun. In the whole South Rudra region, only these two were relatively powerful. One had the bloodline of a king warrior and was born with the appearance of a king warrior, while the other had suddenly risen up and changed the current situation. Nothing could stop his rise. Sikong Sheng will definitely appear. As for Yi Chun, I don't know about it. Yin Qihua knew Sikong Sheng very well. He was younger than him, but had a bigger goal than him. He did not believe that he would slowly sink after losing to Yi Chun. The setback would only make him stronger, and it would be easier for him to reach the peak. If Yi Chun did not appear, Yin Qihua would actually think that his road to become a life and death realm warrior would be bumpy. After all, there had never been a martial genius who could become a life and death realm warrior so easily. As for Yi Chun, Yin Qihua really could not see through him. He was like the clouds in the sky, gathering and dispersing randomly. He was also like the wind, shapeless and formless, giving him a strange and horrifying feeling. During that Hidden Dragon rank competition, it was the first time that he had lost his composure and wanted to beat Yi Chun so badly. But now, it seemed that he had subconsciously thought that if he did not surpass Yi Chun as soon as possible, he would not have another chance. Yeah, I think so too. But I still believe that he will come, whether it is intentional or not. Li Daoxian took a sip of wine. A sword artist's intuition. Yin Qihua felt that Li Daoxian was getting more and more mysterious. Li Daoxian shook his head. To say that intuition was not accurate, it should be stubbornness. The two of them sitting in a lobby were way too eye-catching. One was a blade artist, and the other was a sword artist. The shapeless blade chi and sword chi interweaved together, creating invisible sparks, which made the people around them not want to get close. They would look over from time to time, trying to guess which region these two geniuses were from. In the middle of the lobby, Yi Chun smiled. What a coincidence. There is someone I know nearby. He did not push his soul power, but he could still sense the clashing of Yin Qihua and Li Daoxuan's chi. When blade and sword met, it was always a battle. It was not about the individual, but the natural resistance between blade and sword. Neither of them wanted to be suppressed. Murong Qingsheng frowned. She could not sense anything. Yi Chen's chi was way too sensitive. There were so many chi coming from all directions, and they were all mixed together. It was a complete mess. It was unbelievably hard to tell if it was someone she knew or not. Chapter 448. Yi Chun and Murong Qingsheng arrived at Thunder City, neither too early nor too late. After a day of rest, the tea gathering officially began on the third morning. The morning in Thunder City was different from the outside world. The thin mist had a hint of blue in it. This wasn't because there was something wrong with the mist, but with the buildings of Thunder City. The buildings of Thunder City weren't made of ordinary materials, but a special kind of thunderstone. The thunderstone had the effect of disintegrating thunder and lightning. After a long time, the thunderstone would reflect a faint blue light. This blue light was normally invisible to the naked eye. Only when it was foggy or the sky was dark would it reflect the mist, giving it a hint of color. The thin mist did not affect the enthusiasm of the crowd. The sky had just brightened, but the entire Thunder City seemed to have revived, bursting with an astonishing vitality. The degree of excitement was simply shocking. Raising one's head, even the slowest person could see the changing winds and surging air currents in the sky. The biennial tea gathering was the time for the young generation to prove themselves. Being a king in one's own territory was nothing, but being able to do so on the stage of the southern sector was something to be proud of. A lot of people had put in a lot of effort and blood for this tea gathering, waiting for their fame to spread across the entire southern sector. Now, the tea gathering was finally about to begin. Apart from a few people, everyone was very excited and nervous. They could no longer restrain their battle intent, which soared into the sky. Countless battle intents interweaved in the sky above Thunder City, giving people the illusion that a group of dragons were dancing and the sky was changing color. The fiery atmosphere didn't affect Yi Chun and Murong Qingsheng at all. The two went downstairs and ate breakfast and drank tea together, as if it wasn't a martial tea gathering, but an ordinary afternoon tea. Sitting by the window, Yi Chun raised his head. In his line of sight, the sky didn't change at all. It was still the same scene of surging winds and scudding clouds. However, by relying on the dragon vein qi within his body, he could sense the other 3 true dragon qi. Adding himself, there were 4 true dragon qi in total. These 3 true dragon qi should represent Thunder Princess, Edict Princess, and Astral Spirit's son. 4 true dragons, 7 to 8 fake dragons with the appearance of true dragons, dozens of flood dragons, and hundreds of serpents that have the chance to transform into flood dragons. The entire Thunder City could be said to be a dance of dragons. In a nearby restaurant, it was rare for Yin Chihua to say something to encourage Li Daoxian, which was also to encourage himself. Work hard. Don't lose the face of our South River region. You too. Yes, let's work hard together. Taking a deep breath, the two of them walked out of the restaurant together. The moment they walked out of the restaurant, they knew that they would not only fight for themselves, but also for the whole South River region. Although the invisible pressure was suffocating them, it was not enough to make them feel scared. No matter how many geniuses there were, they only believed that the more they fought, the more powerful they would become. There had never been a time when they desired a battle so much. Outside the south gate of Thunder City, a young man walked out of the mist. Thunder City, I Baku am coming. The bulky young man was indeed the mysterious Tua Baku. Being a playful and combative person, his journey had been delayed once again. This time, there was no expert to carry him, so he could only rush through the night and run with all his might. Fortunately, things were different now. His speed had helped him a lot, allowing him to reach the Thunder City at the last moment, right before the tea gathering was about to begin. He spread his arms wide, and his powerful aura and dragon fountain qi even affected the situation in the sky above Thunder City. Originally, it was 4 dragons contending for supremacy, and now it was still 4 dragons contending for supremacy. However, among the 4 dragons, there was an extremely powerful fake dragon. This fake dragon only lacked sharp claws and teeth, which was much stronger than the other fake dragons. Another expert has arrived. Outside the restaurant, a handsome young man wearing a 7-star robe raised his head and said softly. Beside him stood an enchanting figure. It was an incomparably beautiful young woman, standing next to the young man. Not only did she not lose her splendor, she even gave off the feeling that they were a match made in heaven. Head disciple, is there any expert worthy of your attention? There was still a group of people behind the two, and one of them asked. The handsome young man shook his head. although it is not a real dragon, it cannot be underestimated. A fake dragon can become a real dragon at any time. Head disciple is right. Everyone admired the handsome young man. The head disciple they spoke of was none other than the Edict Prince, one of the 5 great geniuses of Southern Sector. In terms of strength, he seemed to be the number one of the young generation of Southern Sector. Of course, there were also people who said that the Thunder Princess was the number one of Southern Sector, and there were also people who said that the Astral Spirit Son was the number one. Regardless, as one of the leading figures of Southern Sector, not only did the Edict Prince not have the slightest bit of arrogance, he was also extremely humble. UXIN, let's go, the Edict Prince said to the beautiful woman. The beautiful woman nodded. Just as he took a step forward, Edict Prince's expression became somewhat startled. He raised his head once more. In the sky, the 4 true dragon cheese were clearly separated, and beside them were 9 false dragon cheese. But now, an extremely lofty false dragon had appeared out of nowhere. In a short period of time, 2 fake dragons had appeared. Fourth night, you seem a bit excited. Outside the west gate of Thunder City, 3 figures were standing there. The young man with godlike eyes said indifferently, "It's nothing. Let's go in." The figure on the left curled his lips and said, "Even if you don't say it, we know that you have a huge grudge with that Yichun. This time, he will most likely appear in the tea gathering. And after 2 years of training by the Tower Master, you are no longer the same as before. You talk too much. You talk too much. He isn't that simple. All right, I won't say it, but I really hope that he can participate in the tea gathering. The 6th night, and I would like to see if he is as powerful as you say. Perhaps he has already lost his brilliance in the past few years and has become a fallen meteor. That won't happen." The leading young man did not say anything else and walked into the city gate. "All right, time to go to Mian Shio Garden." Yichun stood up and suddenly said, "You don't need to suppress your aura. The sky doesn't need another fake dragon like you." Murong Qingcheng shook her head. "A fake dragon will always be a fake dragon. Plus, I'm different from you guys." "Oh." Yichun glanced at Murong Qingcheng. In her eyes, he was very mysterious, but in his eyes, how could she not be mysterious? He had a premonition that Murong Qingcheng was not that simple. Even without demonic will, even without any improvement, she was not a simple character. She just didn't like to expose herself. Perhaps there was a reason. The moment Yichun walked out of the restaurant, the sun had just risen. The first ray of sunlight sprinkled on his body, making him seem as if he was not a person of the mortal world. The shopkeeper and the waiters of the restaurant were dumbfounded. Even after Yichun left their line of sight, they still hadn't recovered. Mian Shio Garden, the first garden of Thunder City, occupying an area of 800 hectares, its scale was enormous, not inferior to a small city. The venue of the tea gathering was here. Outside the garden, a group of astral-reaching experts were guarding. On the left and right side of the entrance, there were 2 pillars used to test offensive power. There were 10 rows of crystals on the pillars, 10 in each row. Below the crystals was a thin crystal plate. One needed to be qualified to enter Mian Shio Garden. This qualification didn't depend on fame, but on strength. It was difficult to determine one's strength in a short time using conventional methods. However, the pillars were much easier. After all, although strength wasn't directly related to offensive power, if one's offensive power wasn't strong, then one's strength wouldn't be that great. A truly powerful person couldn't be weak in any aspect. What level must one reach to be qualified to enter? A youngster asked. An astral-reaching expert guarding the entrance said, 78 and above, including 78. Hiss. Hearing these words, the youngster at the back of the line sucked in a breath of cold air. What kind of joke was this? 78 and above? The last tea gathering wasn't this harsh. It wasn't like they hadn't seen the pillars before. The crystals on the pillars were used to display data. The first and second rows corresponded to the offensive power of mortal realm martial artists. The third and fourth rows corresponded to condensing reality realm. The fifth and sixth rows corresponded to clasping Yuan realm. The 7th and 8th rows corresponded to Astral Reaching Realm, and the 9th and 10th rows corresponded to Sea of Soul Realm. Each row had 10 crystals. In order to reach 78, one would have to light up 7 rows of crystals, and the 8th row would also have to light up 8. The remaining 2 would be the full value of Astral Reaching Realm. The Astral Reaching expert guarding the side sneered, "If you can't reach 78, I advise you to go back. This is the Tea Gathering, the highest palace of the Southern Sector geniuses. It's not a place ordinary people can enter. Even if you enter, you'll only lose face. Why bother? Let me try." The youngster who first asked clenched his teeth and operated his Zhen Yuan to the limit. He then used his strongest martial skill and slapped his palm on the pillar's crystal plate. Pum! The pillar didn't move at all, but the crystals on it quickly lit up. 1 row, 2 rows, 7 rows, 1 crystal, 2 crystals, 6 crystals. By the 6th crystal of the 8th row, the crystals couldn't light up anymore. Damn, let me try again. The youngster bit his mouth until it bled. He had come to the Thunder City with great difficulty. If he couldn't participate in the tea gathering, not to mention his own discomfort, he would be ridiculed when he returned. Now that success or failure depended on this, he didn't believe that he couldn't reach 78. There were 3 chances to test the offensive power, and the astral reaching expert guarding the side didn't stop him. Pum! The crystals lit up again, and this time, it was a bit faster than before. By the time it reached the 7th crystal of the 8th row, there was still a bit of power left, and it rushed to the 8th crystal. Although the 8th crystal quickly dimmed, it had indeed lit up. The youngster looked at the guard expectantly. The guard glanced at him, seeming to not be able to bear it, and said, "Pass. Roar." The young man waved his arms towards the sky. The excitement in his heart could not be expressed with words. Perhaps he was just a guest, not even a supporting character. However, participating in the martial tea gathering was an honor in itself, something that no one could ever erase. Next, the participants stepped forward one after another. The threshold of 78 was too high. Many people tried their best, and even performed exceptionally well, but still couldn't pass. Meanwhile, some people easily reached 79 or 80. Those who failed were dejected, secretly wiping away their tears. Those who succeeded were either incomparably excited or indifferent. All sorts of emotions were flowing in this place.